Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin is a track that is known for massive speed and consequence and legendary history and respect. Hi everybody, Greg Creamer along with Calvin Fish and Ryan Marine. It is time for the first of two races this weekend in the GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. We are set for round 7 to unfold here at this absolutely fabulous facility. Welcome one and all. Yesterday this place started off awash in the morning. It got better in the afternoon. Today is nigh unto perfect in terms of conditions to go racing. And Cal, we've been seeing some of the shots, the iconic corners around this absolutely fabulous facility. It's a beaut. It's a gem, and it's probably one of the best in the world.
It's a magical place, Greg. When you come to Elkhart Lake, you'll see the circuit here, 4 miles in length, and gives you a little bit of everything in terms of the challenges. Some long stretches of high speed where you need, low downforce ideally, but then you've got a lot of cornering and a lot of heavy brake zones where you really make up your lap time, particularly in that middle sector. Sector 2, it's all about cornering, all about balance on the race car, and that's where the majority of the lap time comes from.
You're in these corners for a long, long time. Most of them are fast, and absolutely right. Just a fabulous place to go racing. And in the GT World Challenge America powered by AWS this year, since we came back from the COVID pandemic big break, the numbers have been down. This category tends to have a lot of international competitors in it, and of course with travel restrictions, that's been difficult. So the numbers have been a little lower than we certainly expected for the season had things been normal, but they've produced some great racing. And one of the classes, the silver category, has been owned by Racers Edge Motorsports. They've been the only car competing in it. They've had great runs to overall success in the lake. But they've got competition in class for the first time this weekend.
They do. They've been dominant this year. 6 wins on the trot, and you'd think, can anyone touch them? Well, this weekend we have a new silver combination from Winwood Racing. Indy Donji put his car on the pole here today, the number 33 AMG Mercedes on the pole, sharing that car with young Russell Ward, and they will definitely give that Racers Edge Motorsports Group a run for their money here this afternoon. The Mercedes is very much up to speed. There we see the 04 car, the CrowdStrike entry. That leads the championship right now, Greg, but only by a single point over the Quadricorsa Ferrari, the number 1 machine of Fuentes and Rodrigo Baptista.
Yeah, it's about as close as it gets in that category. You I mentioned Russell Ward. Let's get down to Ryan Marine down in the pits with that young gentleman.
Yes, Indy Donche already strapped into the car. Gives us a chance to speak to Russell Ward. First of all, great to have you back. Second different co-driver for you in the championship and the jump to the silver class. What do you expect here in your first weekend of silver class competition?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of stiff competition here, so, I really expect to keep it clean. It's me and Indy's first time racing here at Road America in a GT3 car. I've done some racing here in a GT4, and I know Indy has never done any racing here before, so it's a real tough track to pick up. Incredibly fast in the Mercedes AMG GT3, and just looking forward to it.
I'd say he's a quick study. You picked it up pretty quick, right, to stick it on pole?
Absolutely. That's why he's here. I mean, the guy's as fast as a jet, so it's a pleasure to drive with him.
That transition from GT4 to GT3, especially with the Mercedes platform being common between them, how seamless has it been making that step up?
It's been pretty seamless. The real difference between the cars is the aerodynamics, and the GT4 doesn't have a lot of aerodynamics, whereas the GT3 has, 1,000 pounds of downforce. So it requires just a lot of trust in yourself and trust in the car to be able to, go through all the fast, committed corners here at Road America without, getting a little nervous. So, but the boys have given us a great car, nice and consistent, easy to drive. So we'll see what we can do.
Awesome to have you back at the championship. Best of luck this weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that, real quick, that gets to something. I've had people give me a little bit of grief for saying it this way in the past, but aerodynamic downforce, I call it false grip because it exceeds the mechanical grip of the car. And to really extract that, you need to have max confidence. And speaking of confidence in cars, that dynamic at the front end of the Pro-Am field with that one-point battle between those two cars that have been there for most of the year, that might be changing here at Road America with this number 63 car.
Yeah, it's a new chassis. I mean, they switched to the Evo upgrade with just an upgrade package to start this year, but Ryan Dial has not been happy. He's been saying, I don't understand why the sister car under the DXDT camp has been a little bit quicker. Well, they changed chassis and it's got immediate effect. Ryan Dial in the second round of qualifying that sets up the grid for tomorrow had the fastest lap, so it's certainly paying dividends. And putting into perspective the performance of young Russell Ward, yes, he'll line up 6th for tomorrow's race, but he was in fact a 10 1/10 quicker than Indy Donji in his qualifying run. So both of those drivers very evenly matched here today and could pull off a bit of a surprise.
Absolutely, and a car that's consistently, you just saw the shot at it, playing with overall top threes is that number 20 Wright Motorsports Porsche with Fred Pordad and Max Root, still running in the AM category and running there unopposed this weekend. But they really, in that case, just kind of turn their attention to overalls.
Yeah, I mean, they're not intimidated. Fred Pordad has really been a revelation this season in terms of his experience and what he's been able to achieve alongside his very young teammate, young Max Root, who's really going places in this sport. Just got announced to a Le Mans lineup for next month's 24-hour race over in France. So he's got a lot going on, but he put his car fourth on the grid here today, but just a few tenths of a second off the pole position. So look for young Max Root to make some moves here early.
Yeah, very strong indeed, and looking for this one. And then, of course, running with these cars, these GT3 machines in this race will be the fifth round of the GT Sports Cup America, GT Sports Club America, excuse me. They'll be running 4 cars strong coming out for this. And again, interesting to see how that has all played out. You take a look at it. Mark Issa driving a GT3 Ferrari, the TR3 entry, right there, is on the overall pole, but not by that much. And Ryan Gates showing the speed that we've seen from him all year in the GT2 Porsche, the all-white 311 RS Motorsports machine outside of their front row.
Well, Gates has the championship lead, and he's been the man to beat in this new sports club arena. But don't count out those GT3 machines. We talk about Road America, about the handling, about the braking ability. Well, a GT3 car will still outperform that GT2 car through the cornering sections of this racetrack. But in terms of straight line speed, the GT2 car's up over 175 miles an hour here. It's about a 15-mile-an-hour delta between them and the GT3s.
And they do start behind the GT3 field, and we've often wondered, they give them a pretty good gap, but we've often wondered about with all those horses, and it's a big difference on this track, if anybody's going to come up and play with them, and we'll see how that unfolds. But looking forward to this one. There is the Racer's Edge, Acura Accelerated Services, NSX GT3. And it's interesting, that car has really been strong wherever we've been this year, but we're getting reports, Ryan gave us an update earlier in the day, that car, they've been dealing with a little imbalance in that car.
Yeah, and you need balance around this racetrack, so we saw Shelby Blackstock lay down a lap pretty early in that qualifying session, then just let it sit, maybe trying to save some tires for the races here this weekend. So they're up against it a little bit. The Acura has always been strong here, had a dominant weekend here last year, winning Pro-Am both days, and in fact an overall win for real-time racing with Mike Headland and Dane Cameron last year, celebrating real-time racing's 100th victory in World Challenge competition. So we'll have to wait and see what they can come up with here today. Bit of work to do, though.
Absolutely. And there's a look at Mark Issa in the cockpit of that TR3 Nobu Hotel and the Issa Law entry. This is his first start in the GT Sports Club category. He has raced in the GT3 machinery in GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS a few times last year and earlier this season. And for those that might be tuning in for the first time and aren't really familiar with GT World Challenge America, let's talk a little bit about it. A little bit different than the GT4 Sprint X category that we have in terms of length of race and what happens during the pit stops.
Yes, it's a 90-minute event. There's a mandatory driver change that has to happen between the 45 and 55-minute mark. It's been bumped up 5 minutes to account for the checkered flag that will be displayed for the sports club races here today. So their checkered flag will come at 40 minutes in. So for the GT3 cars, 4 tire change, driver change, a little bit of fuel going on board to meet the 90-minute race length. So a lot go on during that time. And it's 81 seconds of the minimum stop time. So you've got to be on pit lane at least 81 seconds. There's a 1-second joker that you can use just once during the course of both events this weekend.
And a lot of that 81 seconds is taken in the drive into the pit lane. It is a long pit entry here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that accounts for about 40-odd seconds of just traversing down the pit lane. And then you've got a lot of work to do. There's enough of a buffer there. You can execute and should be just sitting still for a few seconds. But if it goes wrong just a little bit, suddenly you're outside of that window and giving up time and potentially track position as well.
Well, you bring up the key there. If the car drops off the jacks and everything's done and it sits for just a little bit, that's a sign everything went well. If it drops and goes, probably not a great stop.
No, they can coincide, but typically it means you're leaving a few tenths or seconds on the table, that's for sure.
I just have always loved, since TR3 debuted that graphic scheme, they ran that car in that colors, in those colors here last year as well, and it is glorious. Did want to mention something here. At Sonoma in the 5th round of the championship, when Fuentes and Baptista got the win in the Hublot Ferrari, that was the 488 GT3's 300th win globally.
Wow.
Great, great event for that team to be able to pull it off. For Squadra Corsa. Nicely done, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin Fuentes, he always seems to be up at the sharp end, whichever class he's running in these championships. And he and Rodrigo are certainly a formidable pairing. For more success here today, Baptista has been really quick here this weekend. In fact, led both of the sessions here yesterday in both wet and dry conditions. And ultimately, he lines up 5th for tomorrow's race. So I think that was maybe the biggest prize from this morning's qualifying session. Dial will be on the pole tomorrow, and Baptista back on the 3rd row. So a lot of work to do for the Squadra Corsa team to go and chase down that CrowdStrike entry for the championship lead.
Absolutely, but they do start in front of it for this race. Fuentes, as you said, just on form here. He loves this play. Who doesn't, obviously, but just a great run by him in qualifying to start on the Pro-Am pole. Kurtz will be behind him, and then Fred Pourdad doing just another great job in taking that Wright Motorsport Porsche up to 5th overall, and then David Askew in that Mercedes-AMG GT3 machine. And, you know, I think for David, obviously, having run the car that was the platform they ran previously with the Evo kit on it, making the switch to the full Evo package, you know, he's not a top-flight pro like Dial. Might take him just a little bit longer to make the adjustment to what the different nuances of that car are.
Yeah, and you could see that during the qualifying session. He was gradually getting up to speed. Each lap was faster. So look for him to hang with the pack here and his speeds to increase throughout the course of his stint here today.
You saw that Stu Frederick in the GT Sports Club is running in a class called Iron, and that's an age-related category, and it means you're 60 or older. There's another class called Titanium. We don't have anybody running that today, which is 50 to 59. And then there's the overall, and that is for any age group and anybody that runs in it. And then we separate them out between GT3 and GT4 as well. And as we're watching the field out on their installation and formation lap, check in with Ryan once again at pit lane.
Well, our pole sitter in GT Sports Club, Mark Issa, this is his first race back from a pretty nasty testing crash that happened about 2 months ago at Road Atlanta. He actually showed me the onboard video from that crash just a little while ago, and it was eye-opening. It was at Road Atlanta, a fairly high-speed section of the track, and he suffered ABS failure. It sent him into a wall head-on at pretty much unabated speed. He said he broke several bones in that crash and has been working hard to get back into racing, and this weekend he gets to do just that. He admitted to me it has been a bit of a mental hurdle to clear here this weekend at Road America. Think about all the high-speed corners here that you're going to need those brakes to work for you, but he's so excited to be back once again, and that effervescent personality of his just bubbled over when he was describing to me his level of excitement to be racing once again.
Yeah, when he and Fuentes were teamed up for a couple of races, you just see the hauler would vibrate almost with the energy between those two. They are such great intensity amongst them for life as well as they're racing.
If those two guys ever throw a party together, you want to be there. It'll be a lot of fun, that's for sure. And you could see that by how pumped up Mark was after both of his pole position runs here this morning. So great to see him back, great to see him recovered and knocking off the rust and getting back to competition.
Absolutely. Lights out on the Acura NSX, the official safety vehicle of the GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. So Indy Donche is going to be bringing this field around to the green flag, and then Windward Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3. He's racing in Europe in the ADAC GT3 Championship there. Busy guy as racing gets back on a footing globally here. Look at Askew. He's kind of got his nose off to the side a little bit. And then he tucks back in and waiting for that green flag. There it goes. Donche drops the hammer. Going right with him is Blackstock. Look at Fuentes hunting down to the inside. And
side by side there between the two DXDT machines as they get into that break. There's a little touch. Oh, that's disaster there for the two cars that hit earlier this season at VIR. So David Askew pushing things down to the outside. Meanwhile, side-by-side battle for the lead. Donche on the inside. Blackstock takes the lead into turn 3.
That was a great aggressive move, making a statement by Shelby Blackstock. Donche tucks right back in behind. And there, unbelievable, the two DXDT cars Askew is going to be able to get going, it looks like, but it's tough to tell just how hard that 04 car of Kurt's got into those tires.
It really is, and he's pretty much way down into that gravel trap. I'm not sure he's going to be able to extricate himself even if the car is healthy, so we may see a full course yellow before we get back around here. But Shelby Blackstock, a nice start there, really taking it to Indy Donchy early.
I wonder if that might not have been a little bit of experience on this track, knowing that outside line was, you can really float some speed through there. Donchy, though, looks to the inside, late on the brakes, realized it wasn't going to work and dipped out of it again. But showing he's ready to go play with these guys.
Like Blackstock is trying to make a bit of a statement here. He may not have been happy by losing that pole position here this morning by nearly half a second. So takes the Acura NSX to the front.
There's the sweep out of the carousel and now heading into the kink. Huge commitment for this corner. And look at Fred Portad just hanging with these guys right at the sharp end of things. He has been impressive.
Super impressive. And Ryan Gates has got around Mark Issa for the lead in the sports club class. The question is,
here's your full course yellow now.
Kurtz has got out of the gravel trap. I'd imagine not as we go full course yellow here. And that's a shame because both of those cars really shown tremendous pace here this weekend. Yes. The DXDT team were testing here last month. Let's take another look at it. You see, he's on the flank of George Kurtz. They get down towards the brake zone, just not enough room there. Little glancing blow. Looked like Kurtz was going to get away with it. And then suddenly when David's out of control, he tags the back end of this CrowdStrike Mercedes and turns him as well.
I don't think George realized that David was there at all.
No. You're looking towards the corner, you got competitors in front of you. You may have a spotter who's giving you the word. You got someone to your left side, but just a little bit too much aggression there, I feel, by David on the opening corner of the lap. He had a run going. You said he kind of peeked his headlights out early to take a look.
Well, and I think my guess is that George's eyeballs were in that mirror on his right looking at Fuentes, but just didn't have a clue.
Looked at from both angles there that George Carr really didn't move that much as David now hits pit lane. As we said before, this is a brand new race car, so he'll take in and the crew will do a quick recce here and see if there's any damage to it.
Here's that long pit entry that we're talking about. And there is a mandatory pit speed limit there. And you're just in that pit speed limiter forever, it feels like here. Again, getting this car out of the gravel is one thing, and then we'll have to see just what kind of damage was done to the back. I don't think there was much damage done in that little side hit.
He's just trying to feel the car out as well. Don't see any major damage to the car, but they'll take this opportunity to check everything out.
Well, this is smart with that full course caution, and he'll be able to catch back up, but it's not like he's going to be really deep in the field. So this makes sense. A little bit of damage there on that right front, or the left front from the driver's perspective.
We'll take a look at that momentarily, but
splitter looks solid. That's
it does.
A big concern. That's huge. All right.
George's car's probably got some tail damage, I'm guessing.
Let's get down to Ryan and hear what's happening with the 63.
The crew is obviously giving this a very close look over. They've been shaking the wheels to make sure that the suspension is okay. The big concern right now is to get him out before he loses a lap. A lot of eyes on where the safety car is at the moment. He's down off the jacks and about to send him out. The initial reaction from the crew member guys was that everything was okay, but they wanted to give it a second and third look just to make sure. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we saw them come back in once they get back up to speed and make sure that they stay in front of the pace car and keep on the leader lap.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart move. And at this track, we talked about in the open, it's so high speed and such high consequence that if you've got any concerns about the car, you're going to give it a good look over. And let's give this one more look over. It wasn't much of a drift.
Yeah, it's a little bit bumpy there as you get towards that brake zone. It looks like David's car just bobbled a little bit to the right, just enough to set that glancing blow off to George's car that you see as he ramps into the tires. Just watch right there, just a brush.
Yep. And then there was that contact.
Luckily, no one else involved there as the field tries to get through turn one cleanly.
So I think It's going to be interesting to see when the 04 comes in, just to see how bad that damage is at the back. We're going back to green, though. Lights are out, so that was a great call by the DXD crew with the 63, looking it over thoroughly, but making sure that he didn't go down a lap. But I think he's well behind on this lap, isn't he? Yeah, he's.
Yeah, and I think for George Kurtz, he was hoping there was another lap of yellow for enable him to get back around. So he's got damage to the race car. He's probably going to have to visit pit lane, and David Askew is trying to catch up to this pack as well.
Now we'll find out if Indy Donchi is a quick study and if he can return the favor to Shelby. But look at Shelby, boy. He's done these restarts here before. He knows the game. Immediately opened up a margin. 4
different manufacturers at the front of this field right now. Acura leads Mercedes, leads Ferrari, leads Porsche.
Look at that. Ryan Gates was thinking about coming up and making a move to the inside of Fred Bourdais.
He's got 700 horsepower to play with there.
If he gets out of turn 3 here well, this could be interesting. All white 311 RS Motorsports entry.
Jason Bell there. Running in 8 different races here this weekend. Runs in the 2nd position right now in the Sports Club field. Number 2 GMG Porsche. Blackstock, big lead here in this opening half lap.
And Gates being pretty gentlemanly there. He had a huge run. I think he could have easily gone by Bourdais. But he understands as well that guys up in front of him are fighting for season championship as well. And eventually, this is where they should ease away a bit.
Yeah, and this middle sector is all about handling, and that's where the GT3 cars have a massive advantage with the downforce that they develop over the GT2 cars. So Blackstock, really good restart here. Gaps Indy immediately as everyone's starting to settle in.
Here's Gates, and this is the stick of these GT3 machines is going to make a difference. You can see he's falling back just a little bit. He's doing a nice job, though.
Really is. He's hanging with them, and there'll be a big speed difference down these fast sections by about 15 miles an hour. Now Kurtz makes his way back into pit lane. Quite a bit of damage there as he went into that tire bundle pretty hard there, with the rear end diffuser is broken up a little bit. This is the championship leader, remember, so they've got to do everything they can to get him back out there and at least secure some points here today and try and regroup for tomorrow.
The speeds you run here and the importance of that downforce, he's got to be very, very careful as the loads put on those aerodynamic, those vanes on those diffusers and the like is huge.
It certainly is, and I'm going to be curious to see how Indy Donchi does here, the young Dutchman. He'll learn a lot here from following Shelby. He doesn't have a ton of track time, obviously, first time here this weekend, so he should be getting quicker and quicker as he gets more laps under his belt.
Martin Fuentes right now, you wonder what his MO is at this stage, because both the 04, who's the guy that they've been battling with in the championship, and the 63, who's 3rd but a ways back in the championship, are way, way back at this stage. And is he just going to really take care of the tires, let these 2 silver guys go and play?
I think he should. I mean, he's very smart. He knows how to win championships, so he'll be delivered that message via the radio from his team to say, listen, the 04's on pit lane, 63 is way back there. Just settle in, hit your marks, don't get too racy here. Let's just try and score as many points as we can.
All right, looks like they are thinking about getting this car out. All that high speed tape on the cars, it's amazing how well it does hold, and here we go, Kurtz is out.
Remember, those 2 teammates got together at VIR right before a pit stop in the early race there earlier this summer.
Stu Frederick taking a look down the inside of Jason Bell going into the carousel.
He's talking about teammates hitting each other. Here's 2 teammates in close proximity for GMG.
Yeah, Bell driving for that equip, and so is Frederick. Again, Frederick in the iron class. There's a look at Jason.
Geese has dropped from the pole towards the back end of this field right now, so he's got to regroup here. He's got more lap time, but probably frustrated by how he gets gapped down these long straightaways. That's the dynamic between the GT2 and the GT3 car.
I was actually going to ask you about that on this track. If one of these GT2 cars got in front of him, it could be difficult for him to pass. Well, it's been difficult enough that the other 2 have gone by him as well.
Yes, because he's just going to get stretched considerably, probably by about half a dozen car lengths down this long front straightaway, and then he gets to turn one, will have more apex rolling speed, but he's too far back to do anything with it.
You can just see that margin build between Frederick and Issa. Then you get into these fast corners. And I mentioned it earlier today in the qualifying, but you look at this track and you think about all of the legendary corners around here, but turn one is wickedly quick.
It really is, and you have to commit. There's track limits that will be enforced here on the exit there in terms of using too much of the curbage on the outside, but even so, there's a lot to be had there just by committing and maximizing that radius through that corner. See how he keeps getting stretched here down the straightaways as we now focus in on Indy Donchi, who's closed in a little bit on Shelby Blackstock. And I expected to see this, where Indy should be getting stronger as this race moves forward.
Just learning more about the track, and then you follow somebody who has a lot of track experience, and you pick up little clues from them as well.
And this is not an easy racetrack. It's a long track, so even if you have a 1-hour practice session, you're not getting a lot of laps by the time you share it with your teammates. So you come here for the first time, it's a steep learning curve. You don't want to make a mistake here. As you said, Greg, it's a high consequence racetrack. It's old school. Not a lot of runoff room.
Currently, CrowdStrike fastest lap goes to Indy Donchi, 2-minute 9.692. That is a good one here as he's taking that margin down to just about half a second.
3/10 quicker than Shelby on that previous lap, so I used to seeing Shelby just kind of dominate the early proceedings of race one and driving away from the field, trying to build a good buffer for his teammate Trent Hitman. As we suspected, he's going to have a tough road here today with this silver entry from Winwood Racing.
Yeah, and Trent has just been remarkable this year, as he is every year we've seen him. Now there's that speed he can roll through the corners, and then that Porsche tail gets smaller and smaller. And
yeah,
smaller.
we continue to see that overflow coming out. It must be towards the tail end of the diffuser. When we first saw it this morning, we thought it was around the right rear tire, which is not ideal, but it must be coming out and spraying out the back. We see it consistently around this race circuit.
Hotel entry from TR3 of Issa, and there's Frederick.
It's a little bit closer now, so Mark Issa's starting to get into a rhythm. He's closed in on Frederick, and he's going to lose a bit of time here, but then he's going to get into that middle sector and maybe down into turn 8 or something a little bit further around this lap. He can start to think about making a move and cutting through the field a little bit. This next sector, next 3 or 4 corners, he should be a lot quicker than these GT2 machines as he runs a little bit wide himself.
Yeah, he's really starting to try and flow that speed through the corners to get to a scenario here where he can do something with somebody. There that is again. There's the drop down into turn 8.
He's just a bit too far back, so he's got to rethink this and go through the chess match one more time.
The issue is he can get some really serious speed built up here through the carousel, carry it through the kink, but then after the kink, there's still a fairly good run where it's flat chat down into Canada corner. Although we have seen some guys that pin that a little bit too close to the left in these GT2 cars. With all that power, it really affects their entry into Canada, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And there you see the difference between the GT2 machines, 173 miles an hour at the speed trap versus high 150s to 161 is the quickest time right now by the 93 car. 12 to 15 miles an hour has been the consistent delta between the two classes here this weekend.
Shelby has stretched that margin up to 3/4 of a second on Donche. Fuente's 5 seconds back, and I think just managing things. And poor dad is within a 1.5 seconds of Fuentes right now.
Yeah, he's hanging right there with the Squadra Corsa Ferrari, so Fred Pordad continuing to impress. His nowhere near the experience of Martin, so for him to be able to hang on like this on a very difficult race circuit is really a testimony to the Fred and the whole team. Wright Motorsports, a lot of experience there, led by John Wright, of course, and young Max Root has been sensational this year, really put in some solid performances. You see Shelby there losing traction just a little bit. Looked like TC had to save him a little bit as he exited turn 5, so big question mark is going to be tire management. Shelby's got to make sure that he's keeps some tires underneath him. He's got a long stint ahead of him. That pit stop window opens up a little bit later. Been a change since the start of the year. It used to be between the 40 and 50-minute mark. Now it's been bumped up to the 45 to 55-minute mark to allow us to check and flag the sports club races first.
Interesting thing, Ryan gave us an update during that qualifying session about how that team Racer's Edge, they felt after a few laps they'd get this little imbalance in the car. And were they able to solve that a bit and give him a car that's going to stay consistent? Or is he starting to feel that imbalance come in at this stage as we watch Mr. Gates? And he has been impressive this year.
Yeah, he's been unbeaten this year, so certainly the class of the field so far. And does a really nice, clean job. We see him in qualifying. He just lays down one lap, takes a cool down lap, rethinks it, and then goes at it again. So a nice approach. This is where it's really difficult in those GT2 cars. You really have to set up this left-hand kink here and get more into a straight line braking zone. See Easter there looking to the inside, more downforce. He can brake a little bit later than Frederick in front of him.
The thing for Issa is he almost has to get the pass done going into 5, because then he can use the extra grip of that car to give him enough of a margin to protect him down into Canada corner. And the issue he's going to have, of course, is staying with a car that's 50 miles an hour faster in a straight line, close down to 5.
Yeah, I think the key is to be as close as he can be down in the 5, so he needs to be really tight through turn 3, minimize the damage and the gap down towards the brake zone for turn 5. And that next sector, he's got to really hang tough and maybe make a move into turn 8, I feel, is his best opportunity.
That's a really good point. That would probably be a lot better shot at it here as we take a look at recovering David Askew. And right now, you can see what the margin is. Back to Dave. He's a minute behind his field. They got him out before he lost a lap, but he was still way around the backside of a 4-mile circuit. So for these guys to come back into play here and for Ryan Dial to have a shot at doing something, they need a caution.
They do. They need a reset. They need to get that lucky caution for them and bring this back together. George Kurt's out there just trying to get a feel for this race car. Really felt frustrated at Sonoma Raceway. They had a drive-through penalty for a supposed pit lane speed violation. They took the data to the series and felt that it was not legit, and basically had a time penalty taken away from them that promoted them back up to the 2nd position in the points and has given them a 1-point lead. So they felt they could have won that day without that little delay. So a little bit of frustration coming into this one, but now very much damage control.
And he just turned on his previous lap at 2:11.1. So he's apparently feeling fairly confident in what that car can do mechanically right now. And Issa couldn't get it done into 8. He's so close here. You can see Frederick defending a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a big lunge down the inside, and Frederick's doing a really good job. He's got a lot of experience, Greg. Ran with the World Challenge Championship back in 08 and 09 with Vipers, and but just really this is like a bucket list, a 60th birthday present to himself in terms of purchasing this GT2 car and going racing with GMG Racing as Issa gets the run off for turn 14, but he's going to get out-dragged big time here up the hill.
But he's getting ever closer everywhere. And, at some point, it might come good to him. But yeah, and the fact that it's a 60th birthday present for Frederick, that means that's the reason he's running in the iron category. But he also is somebody who's, as you can see, not too far off in terms of overall, and has continued to hang right with Jason Bell.
Frederick, he looked really good in qualifying this morning. There was only really about a second separating the GT2 runners in the sports club entry. And he's hanging tough with his teammate just up ahead of him, keeping him in his sights and not being too distracted by Mike Issa's presence right behind him.
And Bell, in the 4 previous races, has never been outside of the top 3 overall. A lot of seconds in class.
Bit of debris there as you exit the carousel. Drivers have to be aware of that. You don't want to run over anything with that left front as you enter this high-speed kink.
Watching him feed through and watching Shelby as he comes whistling down into Canada corner. What's the word from Racer's Edge?
Well, you were wondering about that imbalance that they were dealing with earlier in the weekend and certainly in qualifying this morning. And speaking with the team, it was a case of after that first qualifying session, they had a pretty good idea of what it would take to fix that problem, but because of the rules, they could not really enact those changes in between the sessions. They couldn't do the kind of changes per the rules that they would have liked to have done. So they went back to the setup pad after the qualifying and really tweaked on that car, and based on what Shelby has been saying to the team over the radio to this point, he seems quite happy, and it looks like the pace on track would bear that out. One other interesting note, while talking to Trent Hitman, was where these cars make their speed really does vary over the course of a long lap here at Road America. He said he feels like it's Sector 2 where the Acura really struggles relative to the others. It's very good in Sectors 1 and 3. He thinks the Mercedes is strongest in Sector 2, while the Ferrari is pretty balanced across the entire lap. So really interesting to see that play out. Oftentimes the ultimate speed is pretty similar across the board, but the way that the cars go about achieving that speed can vary greatly.
Well, that's pretty interesting, but that's all part of that homologation process for a GT3 car with the FIA, isn't it? When you do your Evo package or you're a new manufacturer coming in, you make a decision and you go, okay, we're going to go a little heavier on downforce because we think that's what we need. Others might say, we're going to go lighter on the downforce. We want to be quick in a straight line. You're locked into that once you make that decision until the next Evo period comes. But that, you think with cars that are supposedly GT3 identical, they're really not.
No, and when you talk about the middle sector, that's the one we're in right now where Trent believes the Mercedes is a little bit stronger. As you exit the kink, you then get into that Sector 3 where he feels that the Acura is a little bit stronger, probably through its straightaway speed.
And then we'll watch for the gap here of Fuentes. Here he comes, Martin Fuentes, in the Squadra Corsa entry, the Hublot Ferrari Fort Lauderdale and Concours Club. Support on that car, and then behind him is Fred Pordad. Continues to impress.
Martin, you see it really bob around there under the brakes into turn 12, Canada corner. Got to be really on your toes. Very easy to lose the rear end late in the tire run on the exit there. Then the Billy Mitchell corner used to be a big bridge that went over there. They took away, and they had a nice tunnel with the renovations to this track facility. But with the bridge was there, it was really hard to see the inside of that corner. You didn't have the sight line and open picture that you have now.
It's still a little bit blind, isn't it?
Sure.
They didn't change the profile of the corner. They left that hillside there, but it just feels more open. And on the other side of the coin, it's just a little less intimidating because that bridge right there was always got your attention too.
It really did.
Well, I'll tell you, Issa's pace here is forcing Frederick up to Bell.
Yeah, and the key is going to be if Mark can display the discipline and patience here with the frustration factor of running against these much faster GT2 cars. Keeps getting close, and makes me wonder if he's going to suddenly make a big lunge somewhere. Gates has opened things up to the margin of 12.9 seconds now over Jason Bell.
Gates is just flying, as he does. And I think Gates finds this a really fascinating challenge with all of his time attack stuff, watching his qualifying sessions where he puts in a flyer and you watch him prep for turn 14 to start a flyer, completes the lap, cools off, then gets another one going. I think he's relishing the challenge now of, okay, now I've got to string them together and just drive the lap all the time. And he's figuring it out.
And there's one thing I watch him in qualifying. I wish he'd do a little bit more of that because he seems to do one lap, cool it down, go again. Maybe that's just how he's built in terms of how he can amass his speed. But I really feel as he starts to learn more and more of the road racing craft, if he could just click laps together, typically you learn from your previous lap, and you're able to take your brake zone in a little bit deep. You're allowed to get, allows you to get on the power a little bit sooner because you're comfortable with what the car is giving you. So I think if he did more consistent long runs in qualifying, he could actually run a slightly faster pace.
I think the TR3 team needs to get in the radio to
Oh, Issa is really close. Got a huge run through the carousel that time. To the inside.
Frederick protects.
It's a sketchy place to think about a move, particularly with a car that's going to out-accelerate you. Frederick had to get off the power a little bit there through the kink. Issa's closer than he's ever been down into the brake zone. He may try and make a move here.
That downforce helps braking immensely, and Frederick knows that.
Yeah, and you can see there slightly shallower approach to these corners for the GT2 cars. That's where it gets really tight as that car comes back across to set up for the Billy Mitchell corner there. Sometimes if there's an overlap, there can be contact.
Issa gets through 14. Just look at him run up the inside. He gets the noses almost equal on occasion, and then the horsepower kicks in. What I was going to say with Issa, I've been watching it in both 5 and in turn 8. I think if the team gets on the radio, I'm going to say, don't try and roll as much speed through 5 and 8 as you're doing, because it's really hurting him on the exit. He turns in early, he's got a lot of speed, and then he loses it all on the exit. And if he can get through 5 really clean and roll speed through there, but a little bit more controlled, then he might have the chance to do something up into 6 or even down into 8, as you said.
Yeah, it's just really, really difficult. Shelby Blackstock, as Ryan alluded to, maybe they've tweaked on that Racer's Edge machine and found a little bit more pace. I really thought that Indy Donchi, with the fastest lap in qualifying and potentially learning from Shelby, would maybe be able to close in and make some moves here as the time is winding down. Another 18 minutes until the pit window will open here.
I'd say that Racer's Edge team, second year only running GT3 equipment, and you'd think they've been doing it for decades. They have really done a superb job, and when they do find a moment when things aren't quite right or whatever, they get that change done very effectively and in a hurry.
It's been a wonderful transition for John Meraki and the whole Racer's Edge group. It's a big move from GTS, GT4 machinery up to this GT3 platform, but they took to it like a duck to water and had immediate success with Kyle Marcelli and Martin Barkey.
Issa's through.
If he did it down into turn 8, I really felt that was the best sequence of corners to maybe get a move done. But getting back to the Racer's Edge situation, yeah, they're a top team, and it's really been a great platform for them to make a big statement at this level of competition.
Yeah, it's been impressive. They're a great group. And you can see now, once he got through in Frederick, you can see the outright pace of that GT3 car, and he's just run down Bell in no time.
Yeah, and I think he'll put that in the memory bank for tomorrow. He recognizes he's got to have a much better initial start to these races, not fall so far back. Otherwise, he's going to have this frustration once again.
And you're right. Looks like it might be turn 8. Frederick missed it, didn't he?
Yeah, he just missed his braking point a little bit, maybe looking in the mirror a little bit. Just got in there a bit too hot. Just runs out wide, and Mark slides through.
I'm a little bummed we actually had that replay, because I was going to say they did what I suggested in turn 5 and it paid off in 8. But hounding Frederick like that, and just staying in his mirrors, and you see Stu was definitely defending on him. He wanted to keep that overall position. And it finally paid some dividends here. Now he's got to do it all again with a different livery, but the same car in the hands of Jason Bell.
You can see that stretch. It's a little bit tidier from Mark down through turn 5. He'd been leaving his brake a little bit too late and just washing out wide, and I think that had really hurt his ability to set up these GT2 cars maybe into the brake zone for turn 8. He's a little bit closer to Jason Bell this time. Just needs to really focus on getting good speed through here. Turn 7, use the downforce here. He should be able to brake a lot later than Jason Bell. Down to the inside, Jason sees him, and he's through.
Nicely done by both drivers.
And that really all started by his better execution of turn 5.
And he made it pay beautifully, and now he's going to have, I think, some serious work to do, though, to catch flying Ryan Gates.
Yeah, he's a long way down the road.
A bit. See right now the margin Blackstock to Donche. 1.7 last time by.
Yeah, I mean, their difference was only 0.04 of a second in terms of their lap time last go around, so they're very evenly matched.
But it was Donche's personal best, so he just continues to be quicker for almost every lap, it seems.
And then the strategy comes into play. Which end of that pit stop window do you want to play with? Seemed like you might see Blackstock pit a little bit earlier than Indy Donche, potentially.
Yes.
The one risk you have by staying out is if there is a yellow, suddenly you're going to be slowed. And if someone's already made their pit stop, you're typically going to cycle back a little bit further in the field. So don't want to get too clever here.
The last couple of laps we've been following Shelby. Back into that Acura is looking pretty happy. It's moving around, and he's driving it incredibly quickly, but it could mean that those rears are best or past their prime.
He's a very determined young man. I really admired his way through the sport. Did some GT racing early, then went to Indy Lights, and really felt that this should be his home for his career. So he switched back here, found a great group. He's been doing some TCR racing this year as well. So he's getting a lot of seat time, and I think this platform was great with the team, the tutelage that he gets there, and a really phenomenal teammate in Trent Hitman.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I think so. I think just the way that John Meraki runs that program can be confidence inspiring, and then to be able to have a driver like him, you know, compare your data with and look at, and you know, what can we do to make this car even faster. Boy, Donche, he is pushing it though.
He is. They're just very evenly matched. Not really a tenth between them each lap. Very consistent. They've both found their sweet spot. They're gapping the rest of this field by a solid second plus per lap. So it's going to put their teammates in really good shape. Certainly for others in this field, guys like Colin Brown and Ryan Dial, they're certainly hoping for some help with a caution flag, even though the Kurtz car is now a couple of laps down with the repairs they had to effect. But certainly for Ryan Dial, he's got a fast car. He's shown pace here this weekend, evidenced by his pole position time for tomorrow's race, but a long way back.
Martin Fuentes continues to run third overall, leading in Pro-Am. Just looking at the scoring here, David Askew, he is closing on the Frederick Bell group to the tune of 3 or 4 seconds a lap. So he might catch them before this pit window opens.
Fall into the carousel here. Road falls away from you just as you want and grip and help as you start to increase the speed. It's taking more and more away from you. And then it gives you plenty of time to think about the confidence factor heading into the kink.
So many just high commitment corners here.
It's just a treasure of a racetrack. I mean, every corner has its own unique challenges. Lots of undulation, off camber, blind corners, big brake zones. What do you do with the setup? Where do you compromise to get around this racetrack, and what's the best for raceability?
That bump on the approach to 14 is, looks like it's a little bit more pronounced than last year.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's right as you're heavily on the brakes and the car's completely compressed down on the road, and suddenly you hit that big bump. It just gets into a timing thing. You get into the rhythm of that as it just unsettles the car right before you're turning in. But if you try and chase the corner a little bit harder on entry, you're going to miss it.
Ooh. That was a near moment by Gates. That was that exit of that Billy Mitchell corner, and you get the angle wrong on that just a little bit. And he is pushing for everything it's worth.
This is about as tight a delta as we've seen between the GT3 cars and the GT2 cars this year. Bearing in mind this is a 4-mile racetrack.
Right.
And Gates' fastest lap is only about 3 seconds off the fastest GT3 times of the weekend, so that's much tighter than we've seen so far this year.
And I would think that would be due to the 3 very long straights at this track where that horsepower will make a difference. Let's see, Issa is 13 seconds behind him and lapping about a second quicker. But he doesn't have a lot of time here.
No, time is running out rapidly here. Only 4 more minutes on the board before the sports club class will get their checkered flag. 5 minutes later, the pit stop window will open up for the GT3 machines. So got a little bit of understeer push dialed into the car. Every time you see the car, it's got a lot of steering input, and the front wheels are doing a lot of work on the exit of the corners. But that's probably not a bad way to go when you got this much horsepower underneath you, trying to tame 700 horses around this race circuit. Little drift there. We saw that in qualifying this morning a couple of times.
Yeah, there's that push you're talking about.
Yeah, I think he's getting more and more confident with this this race car weekend by weekend. I think he's taken it pretty tentatively initially when we saw him this season, Greg, at VIR when we had the opening rounds of this championship.
Yeah, not here. He is definitely, as you said, I think that comfort factor, knowing the car a little bit better. And I have a feeling for a guy who, you know, with the time attack and just that high speed approach of just flog it, I think Relish is doing it on a track like Road America.
You can see he really sets up that entry to Canada corner very well by his line through that kink that we're looking at right there for Mark Issa. You're just getting from point A to point B so much quicker with the GT2 cars. You've got to be thinking way ahead.
Oh, watching Issa. Here's Gates. Get this in one more lap.
175 miles an hour. You crest the hill and get on the brakes for turn 1. Long corner, you really need to get right down to that apex. There seems to be a lot more grip there. Then plunge down the hill, try and make a straight line. Oh, Frederick on Bell. 2 GMG Porsches going at it, and just not enough room there. Looks like that was up into turn 6.
Yeah. Well, at Sonoma, remember, Frederick and Kyle Washington, both for the GMG team, had a little bit of contact there, and I think Frederick that time, he didn't want to be part of contact at the second straight event, and he got out of the brake, or out of the throttle, so we didn't get into him, and that's what got that weight transfer and had that spin happen here. But that's now brought David Askew right onto his 6.
Yeah, gonna have to wait and see if David gets frustrated by that GT2 car's straightaway speed like Mark Issa has been dealing with. As we said, these cars are going to be checkered flag here momentarily. A lap and a half for our leader right now, I think, before he'll see that checkered flag, and then the GT3 cars can start thinking about their pit stop window. See the understeer, you just see a lot of steering angle in those front wheels.
You're talking about, you know, is Askew going to deal with that that speed differential like Issa did? And I was going to say, I think Issa showed really great discipline and patience in that battle.
Yeah, he's enjoying it, and he recognizes that he's going to be fighting that dynamic, particularly after the first lap he had. So here's Jason Bell, as we said, very busy man, running 8 races this weekend. And just showing remarkable poise and discipline to be able to jump between a GT4 car that he's running in 2 different races each day, and then jumping aboard this much higher horsepower machine. Basically going from like 400 to 700 horsepower. Literally in a blink of an eye. I think this morning he jumped out of the sprint race and walked up pit lane and jumped on board to qualify this car.
It should be the last lap for Ryan Gates in the GT Sports Club America field.
Get this bus one more because I think. Oh no, he'll see the checkered flag next time by. You're right.
There's Issa, the margin between the two of them, about 11 seconds. Yeah, Issa's just got to figure out a way to be able to be a lot closer earlier so he can get to the front.
Yeah, he fell a long way back on the opening lap. So again, he's returning from a big incident, as Ryan alluded to, so just taking things easy. And that's really the whole concept of this sports club class, is for these drivers to come here, enjoy the environment, enjoy some brilliant racetracks that we visit with the SRO championships, and just not be quite so intense about the racing, just enjoy the experience.
I think that's absolutely it. You know, surely it's a competition and they want to go out and show well, but it's more about the fun factor. Be able to go out and drive these amazing machines, as you said, on a venue like this. And were it not for the COVID pandemic protocols and the like, normally there would be a big hospitality area set up for the driver and their families, and that's the sports club concept. And I tell you, Gates, he has no issue just using up every piece of racetrack.
He was almost up and over that apex curb there, and washed him out a little bit wider than he normally is for the exit, but putting on a show.
He really has figured out that run from the kink into Canada with all this horsepower and how to straight line that braking. He's doing a nice job. Last time up through Billy Mitchell. And now heading into turn 14 and continuing to sweep everything in the GT2 overall category. Up the hill for 311 RS Motorsports and Porsche, Ryan Gates adds yet another win to what has been a superb season. Here comes Mark Issa, who showed great patience in the GT3 TR3 Nobu Hotels entry. Brings home the GT3 win. Just a nice job. Here's Jason Bell. This guy, he said nothing but top 3 overalls. He's going to keep that streak intact, and lots of second places in class to only Gates. Jason going to keep that run going again in the GMG racing machine.
Waiting for one of these guys to ignore the checkered flag and having so much fun they just stay out there.
Stay out there until they run out of fuel, exactly. And here comes Stu Frederick, who will finish 4th overall and win the iron category in his GMG Racing GT2 Porsche.
He had a really good run, though. His lap times are good. He held off Mark Issa for the longest time, and then had a bit of an attack on his teammate Jason Bell for the position there up into turn 6. Didn't quite pull it off.
And getting out of it abruptly is why he dropped back like that. And you can see now Blackstock, last few laps, he's been able to open the margin up over Indy Doncic to almost 3 seconds, Cal.
Yeah, really consistent. Just laid down another lap in the 2:08 range, just a 1/10 of a second off his best. So really consistent run here for Shelby. And right at that critical point, if they are thinking about making that early pit stop, he's really brought the car in a great position for his teammate Trent Hitman.
And a fair margin from Doncic back to Fuentes. But right now, Martin is less than a second in hand over Fred Pordad. So there it is. Boy, Fred is doing just a brilliant job. And again, Martin understands nobody around him in his class. He's got this well in hand. The last thing you want to do is push unnecessarily and have something happen. But still, for Fred Pordad, who is a true AM driver, he's got to be grinning, knowing that he's glued to the back of a driver like Fuentes. Yeah, really a nice performance by Fred here, and what this could set up for is a really nice little battle between Baptista and Max Root. If they have equal pit stops and we see this sort of margin, this could be sensational watching those two youngsters go at it. Fred is keeping the heat on. He wants to maybe grab that track position before we see everyone start to hit pit lane. Well, and the Squadron Corsa guys, they get it. They're awfully good at what they do. And I wonder if part of their ideology, their thought process right now is, look, just go fast enough. Nobody around you is threatening you. If we get a caution, and suddenly that brings the likes of Askew and Kurtz back up to you, you'll still have some tire left in that Ferrari, and then you can go ahead and defend and drive away from them.
For sure.
You got to be thinking that long term, don't you?
You do. There's an opportunity here because the pit window is open, as you can see, and the leaders are already past pit in, so it may give the opportunity for one of these two cars to make the early stop. Then if you got a yellow, they'd be in great shape compared to the overall leaders. So a lot of what ifs going on with that scenario, but certainly if Wright Motorsport brings in Fred Portad, and you don't think that they want to get Max Root and Baptista behind the wheel of the Scuderia Corsa car as well as early as possible, as you see them hit pit lane.
You called it.
Just the vagrance of the rules there. It doesn't have to, at one time it had to be the leaders have the first opportunity. They did away with that a couple of seasons ago. So now, as soon as the clock hits that pit window open mark, anyone can jump in. Now it's all about execution here. And I'm hoping that both these teams execute at a similar level so we can see Baptista versus Root.
Yeah, that should be
the second half of this race. That would be really cool.
Well, we've got the clock going here, so we'll keep an eye on it.
Rodrigo, busy boy this year, running 2 different championships, running in the SRO Endurance Championship with K-Pax.
Portad out, Root in. Baptista.
Looks pretty smooth so far.
It surely does. Looks like Kurtz has come in as well. As we said, the telltale is the car down and sits for a minute. Like that. That's a good sign.
Root just got asked as a driver for GMW team going over to Le Mans in about a month's time.
That's awesome. Boy, problem for the Hublot Ferrari. They dropped and went, yeah, they're definitely going to lose some margin here.
It wasn't a great one even by Wright Motorsports. They're 5 seconds outside of the window, so a disaster here for Rodrigo Baptista. 11 seconds outside the minimum pit stop delta time. Seemed to me like the tires were really late getting out there.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
Driver change was going on, refueling. It's not like you have to do one before the other. Everything can be done at the same time.
I wonder if they mistimed these because those tires, now you're allowed to have them in tire warmers, and on a cool day like this, they certainly would have been. Maybe they just didn't get them to the pit wall in time.
That's possible.
All right. Here we go. Now Dial getting on board as David Askew climbs out. With that longish stop, this is opportunity here for that 63.
It is. They're a long way behind. They still need a reset with the caution, right?
That's been resolved. Everything now moving pretty smoothly, all things considered, for the Racers Edge team. French Pirelli P0s going on the left side of the car. Now the crew coming around to the right. This is a well-coordinated, well-orchestrated ballet for this pit crew. No question about that. Left rear on. A little trouble getting the air hose release. Now the car is dropped, but an apparent problem towards the front of the car. Now they release Trent. Because they held him, I don't think it cost them too much, but boy, that was chaos there at the end of that stop.
Yeah, long one as well. This 81 seconds is proving to be a challenge.
Wow, everyone really struggling with this. So I'm not sure if the math was a little bit off in terms of how long it should take to get these stops done here today, but no one even close to it.
No, I mean the 6 seconds over for everybody. The closest one was, what, 5 seconds long by Portad to Root.
I actually quite like it because it puts it all in the hands of the crew to execute.
Yes,
then
I do too.
You're not just sitting around waiting and having a sandwich. You're got to make it happen.
Well, I mean, this is the pinnacle of sport, right? The GT3 category, the GT World Challenge, and so it's a team sport. The team should feel some of the pressures as well, and have to execute like the drivers do. And I think it makes it a great show.
Well, if they can execute closer to that delta, it could easily give Russell Ward the track position over Trent Hitman, because the Blackstock Trent Hitman exchange was 6 seconds outside of the minimum stop time.
All right, well now Trent Hinman's going to put his head down and get after it here.
And he'll know. I would imagine that the team will tell them, listen, we lost some time on pit lane. You got to get your hammer down, otherwise we're going to lose track position here to the Winwood Racing machine. Russell Ward going to jump on board. Been a really busy boy since everyone's got back to racing, running in a number of championships with great speed and effect. Indy did a nice job on his first visit to Road America here. His team is running in European events as well, teamed up with HTP. Bryce Ward, Russell's dad, is brought into that partnership.
Boy, Hinman picking the throttle up early there in 14, didn't he? Really carrying some speed. Now, this is going to potentially be a really good stop here if everything goes well, because they had the ability to wait here. There goes Hinman.
This is way outside.
No, it sure is.
I just don't get what's going on here today, because they held and waited.
Yes.
Not even close to it. I mean, if they'd executed there and gone, they could have potentially jumped the 93 car, and they just did a pit stop time, which is 13 seconds outside of the minimum.
Now let's see with those preheated tires, see what Russell can get after it here. I think that is now Colin Brown. Now down a couple laps, obviously.
Yes.
But we'll have to see how all of this cycles through at this stage.
Colin Brown and both DXDT cars were testing here last month, so you'd expect them to have good pace here this weekend. Certainly Trent Hitman looks to be in great shape here.
Yes, he does. He is just an immense talent and just a great fit with this team.
Yeah, basically a driver on the HPD books, Honda Performance Development, so great to see him busy, coming off a GT3 championship last year, but getting this full-time ride in SRO competition as well. All of these drivers at this stage of their career want to be as busy as they can. Whew. That is pushing it.
He is after it.
Maybe he didn't get the message yet that they had a better stop.
Yeah,
Winwood car. He's just
exactly.
He said it was hammer time, and
let's see what this lap is here. Best set so far, 2:08.3 by Colin Brown, but what does Hinman do? But a 2:08.1, fast lap of the race.
yeah. He's just really confident in this car now. Has a ton of miles, knows the car really well. And I think this car is a lot better suited to this new Pirelli tire this year as well. Seems to be a much bigger sweet spot, much bigger range to get the car working than the Acura last year, even though Real Time had a lot of success. 7 wins on the year, I believe, so, but it seemed like the car was a little bit quirky last year to really get into that setup window.
Well, they're running that new tire in this series this year, and I mean, to a person, pretty much everybody has said that they like the new tire. They said it's not necessarily quicker like in a qualifying 2-lap run, but they said over a stint, it just seems to perform better, and you're faster at the end of the stint than you were with the previous tire. So that's what you want from a tire. Pirelli delivering.
Just with that pit stop exchange, we saw Indy Donchi basically about 2 to 3 seconds back, I think it was, at, when they started to make their pit stops. Russell Ward is now 16 seconds behind, so just that time spent on pit lane has really hurt them.
Yes.
I just think that minimum pit stop delta is maybe not achievable, and then if you have a bad one on top of that, it really gets quite alarming when you look at the numbers.
Max Root sitting in the 3rd spot, but a ways back.
Yeah, it's a shame that the Squadra Corsa team had such a poor stop as well, because it really took the sting out of that potential battle. I was really looking forward to seeing young Max Root and Rodrigo Baptista go hard at it.
And you're talking about Ryan Dial, who now is in the number 63 Isalco DXDT machine. And he's running some really quick laps already, Cal, but as you pointed out, he's over a minute behind Baptista at this stage because of that problem at the start. And pit window is closed, but everybody is well in dealing with it. And Russell Ward hustles the Windward Racing Mercedes AMG machine up the hill at Road America.
Again, it just really showcases that the silver pairings are awfully tough to beat when you go up against the Pro-Am combinations here this year. Certainly Blackstock and Hitman have kind of had things their own way most of the time, unless they've had a few issues in a race. And the fact that the first time we've seen another silver pairing, they're running in the second position today as well.
Just kind of keeping an eye on lap times here, and Max Root has run a 2:08.4 compared to Hinman's 2:08.1, so that gives you an idea of the speed he's seeing right now.
DL's running in the high 208 range, so to wait and see. There might be a little bit of damage still to that 63 car, because DL was really quick here this morning in qualifying.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. And we watched what was just a great performance by Ryan Gates in the GT Sports Club America 5th round. Let's hear from him with Ryan.
A special race, I'm sure, for Ryan Gates back in victory lane here.
Yes, sir.
And a beautiful setting for it at Road America. How did you snag the lead, and then how did you hold on?
Well, that Porsche 911 GT2 RS has so much power on the straights. I kind of set it up, set it up prior to with a quick exit on, I think, turn 3. Just pinned it, followed the Ferrari, and then faked to the right, bombed to the left, and that was it. Thankfully, he raced clean, too.
Yeah, nice race indeed. Now, usually I'm the one asking questions, but I understand you've got a question to ask as well.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Christina, I've got a question for you. You don't need a mask. Krista, you are the love of my life, and I am wondering if you will please take my name and marry. Will you marry me?
Special moment here in victory lane at Road America, guys.
Road America is a magical place.
How cool is that?
Wow.
I was thinking he was going to say, did you clean my golf club?
Oh, that's just incredible. Boy,
pretty cool.
After a drive like that and then a moment like that, this is we get to remember for Ryan Gates and family. Wow.
Pretty special. Congrats.
Yep.
It's a pretty special performance here.
Isn't it? 2:07.9 by Hinman, Cal, on that last lap.
Yeah, that's nice. He's showcasing. Oh, this is unscheduled.
Pit lane infringement.
Oh, there we go. Just looking at that up on the scoring now. Well, it was a slow stop and something went amiss at the same time, so this is going to really hurt them. Don't think it's going to drop them back into the clutches of Dial, but possibly.
Well, and I wonder.
It's going to be getting closer. Dial's just coming through turn 13 right now, so enough of a gap, fortunately, for the Squadra Corsa team. There was definitely something going on because those tires go incredibly late during the pit stop sequence there.
Well, and I almost wondered, just from a look that I had at it, there's that mandatory grounding clip that has to be attached to the car because of the fueling. And I think that has to be pulled either before the car drops to the ground or certainly before it leaves. And I wonder if maybe the car moved before they grabbed that clip, because it looked like that was pulled really late, but that's just pure speculation on my part.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, suddenly now, Baptista is going to have to be a little bit more mindful of what's unfolding behind him here. And if there's a caution, oh boy. But boy, Hinman is, he threw that 2:07.9 down. Now he's back into the 2:08.2 range, and impressed by Russell Ward running within 2/10.
I'm really impressed with Russell. I've been watching him this year in different championships, and just really is gaining a lot of confidence. And and even teamed up with some really good young talent like Indy Donchi. I mean, he's running laps a lot quicker than Indy was running earlier in this race.
That's
so
a good point, yeah.
That's very, very impressive. Could bode well for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, now with Indy having a full race under his belt and knowledge of this track, and Russell running the way he is, yeah, that's a really good point.
Right now, Trent Hitman has just got to enjoy the ride because he's got a really fast race car underneath him, perfect track conditions, and one of the best circuits in the world, I believe, let alone North America, to be driving a GT3 machine on. So no pressure from behind, just all about just executing and delivering.
Well, in ways, I mean, this is the type of track that really suits the GT3 car with these long, fast corners where you want that extra downforce and you can just flow so much speed, and that just makes these corners even more intoxicating, doesn't it?
It does. And the sound of that Porsche whistling through the trees here down the back stretch, just magical.
Yeah, that engine note hasn't changed in years, and you hear that, you know that there's a special race going on. That's for sure.
Watch the bumps here on the approach to 14.
He's got a line through there that's actually not too bad.
Not bad at all. Yeah. I'd say the car is really working well there in terms of the shock package as well. It wasn't as unsettled, wasn't as big a launch as some of the other cars as you went to turn in.
.208.7. He's 12 seconds adrift to Ward in that lap. It's about 3/10 quicker. So,
what I'd like from young Max is certainly he's got pace, but he's not thrown off the road either. And he hung on to Jerome Bleekemolen, who's one of the most experienced drivers and drives Porsches all of the time this year, because he's trying to put himself in position for the Porsche Cup Championship, which is a global championship scored on points that you can accrue in all of the championships put together globally. And he just kept Bleekemolen right there in his sights for the whole race.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Very similar to what Daniel Morad did at the a few years ago. I think it might have been 2017 when he did the same thing, Mercedes versus Mercedes, with Jerome behind the wheel.
In that case, he held them off and won it, and that was he later admitted, he said, yeah, he said that changed how a lot of people were looking at me and everything. And you know, it's one of the things, you get a driver of the global, all-world caliber of a Bleekemolen that comes into these championships, he sort of becomes the comparison bar.
Yep.
And you get out and run well with him, it opens some people's eyes up a little bit.
For young Max, as I said, he'll be going to Le Mans this year with the JMW Motorsports Ferrari team from the UK, and he's going to be paired up with Richard Heistand, who's a really good young driver, and had success last year with a couple of GT3 wins, and also with Jan Magnussen, a long-time Corvette driver who's got 4 Le Mans victories. So talk about being a sponge on some experience there. Young Max is in a great opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I would just sort of attach myself with a leash to just follow him around and get that experience. You bet. So look at Rodrigo Baptista, who was awfully quick. Just for that long stop, he's not really getting a chance to race hard with anybody here. And with that drive through, that margin had gone from 48 seconds to 23. Still a lot, obviously, from Baptista to Dial. And Dial running about just shy of a second a lap quicker in the last couple of laps. So he knows that's not going to do it, but he's not going to give up because something can happen.
No, this could get a bit tasty if we should see a caution, but obviously everyone keeping it pretty clean so far. They're really fast race cars, but they're kind of separated out around this 4-mile circuit right now. Still fun to just watch one of these cars even solo around here.
It is.
See the Ferrari there moving around a lot more on the bumps than the Porsche was.
Baptista understands he's in a scenario here, and he is pushing it hard.
Still got the class lead amongst the Pro-Am runners.
Yep. And his closest competitor that we talked about is Colin Brown, but they're going to get, if it were to finish like it is now, they'll still get third place points even though they're down a couple laps.
Yes.
So.
But they'll lose 10 points to Baptista, and they only had a 1-point lead coming in, so it should be 9 points if they stay as they are right now with the lead going back to the Ferrari.
Here's a look at Ryan Dial.
Question mark as to if there's any damage that's upset the geometry on this Mercedes.
Yep.
Brand new race car this weekend.
Well, Ryan certainly liked it in qualifying. What's the word from the pits during the race, Ryan?
Not liking it so much right now, unfortunately, guys. There was some kind of internal damage done based on that contact, at least according to my conversation a moment ago with David Askew. He said that it was evil. He does think it is a little bit better now, because in that incident he flat spotted a set of tires, and that was creating a pretty serious vibration. The good news is, with the change of tires at the pit stop, the vibration is gone, but the handling is not. Just talking to David, it seemed like he felt that there was a bit of a miscommunication there coming into turn 1, and that he felt like he held his line and George moved over. And I haven't had a chance to see it, so you can weigh in a little bit more on that. But clearly there's some disappointment, not just that it happened, but that it happened amongst teammates. The good news is it sounds like both cars will be repairable as far as repairs here on track looking ahead to tomorrow. So that's pretty much where the focus lies right now for DXDT Racing after problems really early on in this one.
Went from the 2020 Evo kit to the 2020 Evil kit. But it's hard to place blame. I mean, I think for a start, when you're going alongside your teammate up there in a turn 1, I think David was maybe being a little too aggressive. I don't think George really moved. I don't think, you know, David really moved over. I think just that bumpy approach to turn 1 just unsettled both cars a little bit, and they just touched ever so slightly. It was enough to turn certainly the 63 car around as he was spinning, then clocked into the back of the 04 car as he was turning in.
Yeah, well, I think there was that little bit of movement by Kurtz, but it was because he had Fuentes steaming up the inside of him. And, you know, I think that's where his attention was. I don't think he had any clue that David was along his left shoulder there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it's racing and opportunities in these GT3 cars. Sometimes you want to take the best opportunity, which is a start or restart, to make something happen. But there was some optimism, I think, there on David Askew's part, but hey, he's a racer.
He had a run and nowhere to go with it out of that left-hand lane, and suddenly when you're 3 abreast, they're going down into the brake zone. You can see it right there, just a little bit of porpoising there over the bumps right as you're trying to get things slowed down a little bit. It's enough to move both cars around a little bit, and they just touched. So they'll need to discuss it, and it's the second time it's happened this year, so a lot of disappointment there for the whole camp, I would have to believe.
Just looking at some of the margins here. And with Baptista, you know, he's driving it. It looks like he's driving it plenty hard. But his last lap was a 2:10. Diallo at a 2:08.8. Yeah, we were talking about it, that they need a caution or whatever. But the other side of the coin is that if somebody, you don't see it often with drivers of this caliber, but you know, should Baptista just overrun a corner or something, and you could lose a big chunk of time, and suddenly you're right back in it. So you're certainly not, from Diallo's perspective, you're not going to just accept where you are.
No, you'll keep digging. You want to be as close as you can and try and get something out of this race, but they're still in line for a nice solid podium run. And I think for Russell Ward, who's running in second in the silver division and second overall, this is a nice little carrot out front in terms of chasing after Colin Brown here. Someone who has a ton more experience than young Russell, so to be hanging with him in pretty much identical machinery is pretty cool. And I don't think that this Winward car has the Evo kit on it.
No, that's a very good point. Yes, the on the Evo kit, but and you also wonder just what kind of damage, what the effect is of that incident on the back of this.
Yes, for sure.
GT3 car with that damage to the diffuser and the vanes.
His best lap is a 208.2. Woods is a 208.5. DL's a 208.5. So can't be too bad for Don to have been able to set that lap early.
Absolutely. I just love these shots. This, you know, running through the Kettle Moraine, the hills here amongst the trees. You can certainly understand why this track has adopted the slogan, America's National Park for Speed.
Quick short shift coming out of turn 5. You need to be in that lower gear just to get that burst of acceleration, then immediately grab it a gear. To see Trent executing, using every inch of the road without taking any risk.
And this turn 6 and 7, you know, I don't think they get enough recognition. I mean, from drivers, they get it, but you know, turn 6, one of the trickiest braking zones that you can find, and then you go into turn 7, which is a very fast turn that falls away downhill. So from apex out, it's all off camber, and so that 6 and 7 complex is, you've got to be very precise.
There's a number of corners like that you go through there, and you're never really sure whether you totally got 100% out of it.
Exactly.
And then when you try and do something a little bit more aggressive, it suddenly goes away from you. So then you realize, well, I must have been pretty close to the limit, but you don't really get the car set.
Yep.
Like turn through 6, particularly turn 7, and even through the carousel, it's like, okay, well, could I commit a little bit sooner? You do get a little bit more load, and the car will take a set through here, particularly on relatively fresh rubber. But even so, it's one of those tracks that plays mind games with you in terms of you trying to get a little bit more out of it, and it won't give it to you.
As we watch Max Root, we've been talking about the step up for the Windward team into the silver division, Ryan.
That's right, and I had a moment a second ago to talk with Indy Donche, who, as we've talked about, is making his Road America debut this weekend, and he says he's not super happy with the pace of the car. He feels like they're missing something, especially relative to the NSX, and we've seen that play out over the course of this race to this point. But he did say that he's absolutely loving this racetrack, and Greg, you're going to like this one. He says it reminds him of a mini Nürburgring. Doesn't that ring a bell? He's been loving his time running around this track. He says there's no margin for error whatsoever, and he really enjoys that aspect of it. And they're going to have to tweak on this race car a little bit to have the pace to run with the Racer's Edge guys looking ahead to tomorrow. But still, pretty good debut, I would say, in the Silver Cup for Windward Racing.
Oh, I would agree 100%. Yes, I've called this place America's Nürburgring for a while, and it's nice to hear it backed up by somebody of Donche's caliber. And, you know, we need to get a little clarification and make sure that on that Windward car, is that the Evo or not? If it's not, then they're doing a really stellar job.
Yeah, looking at the rear diffuser, it looks very different to the other cars out there, so I assume that it is on the old spec.
Yeah. That is impressive. And look at this.
You see the front grille as well as much different.
Yep, absolutely.
Watch tails away, sails kind of flared, and this one is very squared off on the rear diffuser.
That's a very good good catch. And I'll tell you what, Russell is closing on Colin Brown.
Yeah, this is a really good performance by him, and they'll just continue to gather confidence. And it's been cool. And we talked about it a lot in the GT4 categories here this weekend, how drivers are really starting to find their pace, find their feet, get more confident, and delivering great results.
That last lap, Russell ran about a half second quicker than Colin did. Now, what might be happening, obviously, with the damage to the back of Colin's car, you know, in the first half of his stint on those new tires, might have been doing okay, but if he's not quite as efficient at the back of the car, now those tires could be worn off a little quicker.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't have all of the downforce there, it's going to have an effect. Just to look and see what the trap speeds are like between Ward 255, just comparing it to the Evo kit, where the Evo kit has a bit more straight downforce, and certainly looks that way. On that previous run, Ward's trap speed was 255 kilometers per hour, and DL and Brown 251, 250. So probably not as much downforce with the old configuration car. And we do have confirmation that, in fact, that is the non-Evo kit. Russell Ward is driving right there as he closes in on Colin Brown.
And that non-Evo kit, you look at the, you know, as long-lived as that car was before they went with the Evo and the number of wins it put together, it's not like it's a bad piece of kit at all, but that Evo is definitely, you know, an improvement. You wouldn't make the Evo step if you didn't think so. So what they're doing with this car, I think, is pretty impressive.
It's really impressive. And talking to drivers who have driven the Evo kit, just said it's got a wider operating window, just gives the, particularly the AM drivers, a bit more confidence in it. It's not stopping Russell Ward in the old configuration car, just honing in on Colin Brown. This is not for position because Colin and the CrowdStrike team lost a lot of ground getting their car fixed up early on.
I was watching that left rear corner of Colin's car where they had all of that high-speed tape, and it might just be an optical illusion, but I thought I saw that some of that was loosening up, and that might be affecting things in the back.
For sure.
I can't see it very clearly here.
Well, it's certainly patched up, so it's not going to be running at 100%, so there's a bit of work going to be done on that car tonight as Hitman continues to impress. Just running 207s, 208s for this whole race, it seems like, as the team looks on. Blackstock just being patient. He's been in this position many times where he hands it over and he has to just sit and wait for his teammate to try and bring it home for another win.
Such a beautiful piece of real estate here. They call it the Moraine Sweep. Big braking zone, big spectator area there in turn 5. Got a huge grandstand. There it is, set up in the background on a non-pandemic weekend. It's pretty full, and then you got people just lining the fences.
Yeah, and they've done such a great job with this circuit and giving the spectators better and better access. There's now a nice sort of golf path that takes you all the way down the back stretch to get you down to Canada Corner on the inside of the circuit. The concession stands in the center of the circuit by the main paddock area this year, so constantly evolving and keeping up with the times, maintaining the heritage and the beautiful characteristics of the race circuit, but improving the facility and the experience for fans who show up here.
It seems almost, you know, if you come here twice a year, what's happened from that first visit to the second visit, they've done something again. And of course, this facility has just been so massively embraced from the get-go by the community here in Elkhart Lake. There's a great symmetry and dynamic going on with it.
There is, and it's like anything in life. I mean, you got to get to that point. You just can't continue to pour money in if you're not getting the return on the investment. But because they deliver the fans such a great experience when they come up here, they're coming back in bigger and bigger numbers. Obviously, this year is a very much different with the COVID situation, but they're getting that return because fans will embrace it. They'll tell their friends and families about it and what a great experience it is. And a win-win on both sides. We see the Racer's Edge team led by John Meraki there, the blue headset on in the center of that frame. See if they can bring home another win. And part of this COVID pandemic knock-on effect is the fact that the second entry for Racer's Edge is not here this weekend. We don't think we're going to see them for the rest of the campaign, unfortunately, with both of their drivers, Martin Barkey and Carl Marcelli, who saw victory earlier this year. Just too hard to work through the quarantine aspect of going back and forth between America and Canada. I hope to see them back next year.
Absolutely. And you got to believe they'll feel there's definitely some unfinished business, and they'll want to come back and get after it again.
Yeah, when you're sitting on the sidelines, I think you just realize how much you miss it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So Ward got by Colin Brown and stretched that gap immediately.
Yeah, Colin is. Looks like he's backing off a fair amount. His last lap was a 2:12.
Yeah, I've got a feeling maybe there's some bodywork parts that are coming adrift there.
There's Baptista, who just continues to, every time Dial gets a little bit of a gain, Baptista responds just a little bit. Watching this up the hill, again getting the 300th win for this car, the 488 GT3, since its inception at Sonoma.
Be adding to that number today.
Absolutely, it's looking good. When I was going to make a mention of, you know, when I said the community has embraced this place for so many years, Bart Wolf, who is a lifelong resident, went to Elkhart Lake High School and played football for the team and everything, and is a very, very solid, you know, club racer, and now he is renowned for prepping cars for vintage and historic racing. While this track is a public pro racetrack, not one of those country club resorts, when you take a left out of this track and head into Elkhart Lake on the right, he has built a huge complex there, which basically is, you're just a mile removed from the track, but it's these beautiful condos with garage space for race cars underneath, sort of taking that country club resort aspect and just moving it off ground. And that's been incredibly well received. A lot of teams now always keep cars there, or just drivers that want to come out and
yeah, it's all first class. I mean, the village is looking great,
isn't
and the racetrack is ever superb.
All right, into our final 8 minutes coming up here of this 7th round of the GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Championship. And yeah, Colin is bringing that car down into pit lane. As we take a look at the top 5 speeds, powered by AWS.
See those leading speeds there are led by the GT2 machines. And you almost got to treat this as a little bit of a test session here for the CrowdStrike team there, to make sure that car is sorted for tomorrow.
They're working on that left corner where all that damage was. See what they're going to do here as we grab a glimpse of the impressive Max Root in the AM category, and he just continues to put in laps.
Yeah, he's just up on the pipe, literally, with the sound of that Porsche. He's just got it buried. Been hearing great things about him, and then suddenly when we saw him in action here in SRO competition, he delivered all of the promise. He's been under Porsche's watchful eye as well, so we'll have to wait and see what the future brings for this young man. I think it's great that he's got that opportunity to get to Le Mans for the very first time. That's a box that is really hard to get ticked by a number of the young professionals, so that will certainly go a long way to giving him opportunity in the future as well.
Well, it sounds like it's a pretty stout driver lineup.
Yes.
Which means some big opportunity there.
It's a 24-hour race, and Magnussen's been there a ton of times, but for Richard Highstand and for Max Root, it'll be their first visit, so there's a big learning curve, but a little bit different this year. No test weekend, condensed into 4 days of action, but no fans as well, so maybe take the pressure off someone going there for the first time. You're not as intimidated or overawed by the overall experience. Just focus more on the race car and the racetrack. Sometimes that driver parade can take all of the energy out of you before you even see the green flag.
Of course, SRO itself has another blue ribbon 24-hour race, the Total 24 Hours of Spa.
We've just been seeing some stellar fields despite the COVID pandemic situation over in Europe for SRO.
That gets you the lip smacking, doesn't it, here?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And Spa 24, what a special place that is, and what an event.
Yeah, just incredible.
They like Le Mans will be fans this year.
This is just, it's going to be a year to remember, but in many ways to forget, you know. And but I think one of the things that will stand out is the fact that SRO and other series as well, but certainly SRO at a global level with their operation, came up with those protocols, have adjusted them as necessary, but we're able to get back to racing at the earliest opportunity. And the teams, the promoters working with the series have made it possible. And everybody has followed those protocols, recognizing that if we can't follow the protocols, we got to stop. and it has just been brilliant, the response across the board.
It certainly has, and it's been really important to maintain, you know, the premier events like the Indy 500. It wasn't in May, it was in August.
Right.
You know, so obviously Spa's at a different time of the year, and other sports as well, even without fans, like the Masters is going to be in November versus Easter. So it's very different times, but you've got to maintain that tradition somehow.
Yeah. Part of life is adapting, right? And you know, as difficult as it's been, I think we've seen just an absolutely brilliant example of exactly that, saying, okay, what do we need to do? Let's make it happen. And they have. So that was my point. You know, in a lot of ways, this is I think what will be remembered is how everybody worked together to, you know, find that silver lining and make it work.
Certainly this Acura has been very impressive over the last couple of years here at Road America. I mentioned before, brilliant win last year for Real Time, celebrating their 100th victory with Mike Hedlund and Dane Cameron. Mike Hedlund hanging on for an overall win.
Yeah.
Some stout competition. Certainly a highlight in his career. And I think this car is even better this year with the switch to the newer Pirelli compounds.
Liking it. As we're into our final 3.5 minutes. Hinman and Ward 1-2. Overall and in silver. Root third. Leading Am. And Baptista and Dial. And Baptista's backed off a bit. He's running laps in the low to mid 211s, and Dial's still pushing, and he's made up a little bit of ground, but knowing that Baptista's got plenty of ground ahead of Dial, so.
Looking at Hinman's pace, he certainly looks to be the favorite for tomorrow, even though he'll start not from the pole, but the outside pole position. But big question mark, obviously, around the condition of both the 63 and the 04 in terms of what sort of pace Dial and Colin Brown will have with healthy race cars.
Yes.
Not two that got banged up as they did today.
You made mention of the fact that Russell ended up qualifying 6th overall, but his speed and time was very close to what we had seen in that first session. So everybody else up in the ante just a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do from a little bit farther back in the pack.
Yeah, and certainly it seems like the older spec car that Russell is running might have a little bit more straightaway speed, so maybe he can make that work in the initial laps and the start tomorrow. Just hear that car working incredibly well, hard on the power, not really getting into the TC too much, not too much interruption coming off that very tight turn 5 corner, even this late in the run.
Here's Russell in the Tech Mech Windward Racing Mercedes. There's Root, just saw him in the background. That's the margin, about 9 seconds or so. But this should be, when Hinman swings around, we should be getting the white flag for 1 to go. Here's Rodrigo.
Well, he really moves around on the bumps, doesn't
it?
It does. Seems to be a little bit more twitchy than some of the other
watch this
platforms
bump
here.
Boom. Yeah. Feel it. All right, here we go. Ooh, Dial. Wonder if he just said, yeah, there's no point in
Don't want to disrupt
fighting
the
here.
lead again.
Yeah. Class act, Ryan is.
He's had enough too. He doesn't have to do an extra lap.
There you go. There you go. All right, white flag coming out for Trent Hinman. The Racer's Edge Acura, last lap here at Road America for round 7. The GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Championship.
It's been a dominant performance.
Yes.
I thought that other teams may take it to the Racer's Edge group here today, but not to be so. Great start by Shelby Blackstock. Was not put off by the pressure of Indy Donchi, and then his teammate just got the hammer down and extended that lead at the front.
And Obviously, that little bit of contact at the off by the two DXDT cars took the pressure off of the Ferrari Baptista and Fuentes. And I think for those guys, you know, 4th overall, that's not going to necessarily sit well with them, but you've got to have the ability to big picture think here, and they, you know, recognize, look, this is an opportunity we can, you know, take it a little bit easier here, save the car. There by Russell.
3. Yeah, a long way off. That's his track.
Yeah.
Lucky to escape the gravel trap. And that's put Max Root right on his tail. And I'm curious to know if he's got a healthy race car right now as he gets back up to speed. I'll watch the tires down in this brake zone. It could be a little bit dirty. Now we'll see what the mentality is of this young man coming up behind him. How much does he want that position that is not for a class position? Said before that he's been very disciplined in his approach. So we see the Winward Racing team looking on. A lot of grass there in the grill, but this is the final lap, so he's just going to drive it home, you'd have to feel.
Through the carousel for that group. Here's Trent Hitman, last corner, climbing the hill. That Racer's Edge Acura NSX, the Acura Accelerated Services machine coming through, taking the win at Road America. And there's the team celebrating at the wall. Shelby loving it, as is the rest of the team. Once again, those guys just working like clockwork. Here's the battle for 2nd overall. Ward will have that, along with Donche and Winward in the silver category regardless, but looks like Root's not really close enough to do much.
No. And even if he was closer, I think he needs to be smart here and just bring home another M-Class win.
Absolutely. Up the hill they go. Russell Ward, even with that laid off in turn 3, brings it home 2nd overall and in silver for Winward and Mercedes. Right behind him, Max Root for Wright Motorsports and Porsche. 3rd overall, winning AM. Next across the line will be your Pro-Am winner.
Max immediately going offline, pick up some of the marbles and make sure that the ride height is boosted a little bit in case you don't pass tech. All totally legit. Adds a bit of weight to the car and bumps up the ride height in case you're running close to the margins.
Here's a look at Rodrigo Baptista on his last lap. The Hublot, Ferrari Fort Lauderdale, and then they've got the Concourse Club support in that car. That is a huge motorsports ranch, essentially, a motorsports club that is being built very close to the Miami airport by design, so people can fly in, go right to the track, drive, fly out again. It's helping them with their run here this weekend. Of course, he's a longtime supporter of Martin Fuentes. It's that Squadra Corsa Ferrari climbing the hill. And a big win, important in those points, Cal, for Baptista and Fuentes.
Yeah, it really was a big day for them. They'll gain 10 points on the championship leaders, so it'll give them a 9-point lead here this evening.
All right, and as we're watching Trent working his way around on the cooldown lap, let's take a look at some highlights from round 7 of the championship. Indy Donche on the pole in the silver Winward car. Blackstock there, but there was the touch, then the secondary touch between the two DXDT cars in turn 1.
There's also a nudge on the Hublot car as well, so I wonder if that car was affected in any way. See it right there, he just comes across and just clatters the side of the Hublot Ferrari, but just a little bit of aggression there by David Askew, putting it alongside his teammate there as they got into the bumpy zone for the brake zone, and then down into turn 3, Shelby swings across and takes the lead, never to give it up the rest of the way.
Well, he certainly gave the squeeze play a bit there to Indy, didn't he? And said, we race hard here. This battle in the GT Sports Club class was a good one. Then Frederick running just a little bit wide and eventually allowed Issa to get through. And then Frederick later taking a run at teammate Jason Bell, but ran a little wide. Ryan Gates wins and then wins again.
Yeah, big day for that couple there. Congratulations. This is late in the go, and Russell Ward just runs off, exiting turn 3, and really put Max Root right on his tail on the run to the checkered flag.
then Hinman and Racer's Edge and Acura bringing it home for the win in round 7 at Road America. And there is the 63 machine. And here comes your overall race winner and silver winner, Hinman and Racer's Edge, and Shelby going over there to help his co-driver out of that car. Big, big day for them.
Yeah, solid day. Really stepped up and responded to the challenge by the Winwood Racing team in a nice way. Curious to know what went on with everyone's pit stop today, whether they're just the calculation in terms of what the pit stop delta is, just driving down pit lane, plus the service was a bit off because we saw no one even close to that minimum time.
No, and the interesting thing was, of the cars running that were doing the stops, most of them, they were about the same long. You know what I mean? That was the thing. It wasn't like it was all erratic.
We saw some teams several seconds outside who are waiting to send the car, so we'll have to try and clarify that this evening.
Yes, indeed. There's Max Root climbing out of that Wright Motorsports Porsche. I wonder what happened with Russell. We didn't see the entry to turn 3 and what may have happened there. Here's Trent. I will, one of the images that's going to be burned into my mind here was at VIR when he and Marcelli got out of their 2 Racer's Edge Acuras after that battle that they put on, and just both of them climbed out and almost collapsed. They put so much into it. That's how hard these guys run here. Now this is a much cooler day here. Let's take a look at the provisional results here of this 7th round of the championship. Blackstock and Hinman won with the overall win and silver win. Russell Ward and Jedache with the 2nd place overall in silver. Then Max Root and Fred Pordad 3rd overall, winning AM. Baptista and Fuentes, Askew and Dial, and Ron Kurtz, that's 4th, 5th, and 6th, and 1st, 2nd, 3rd in the Pro-Am category. Then the yellow entry numbers on the right there. Gates winning overall in the GT Sports Club. Marquisa winning, taking 2nd overall, but winning the GT3 category. And then Bell, 3rd overall, 2nd in the GT2 overall category, and then Frederick winning in the iron category. And there's going to some fun racing and discussion unfolding.
Sounds like Russell Ward was saying like something switched off, so I'm not sure if he lost the ABS or something down into turn 3, but I'm trying to explain what happened. The international language of the hands of a race car driver.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, this was round 7, so I'll be doing it again tomorrow as they make their way over toward the victory circle area. I'll tell you, one of the improvements here that Road America's made is when they moved that victory circle area, they turned it into, it's a pretty amazing spot there that they created up in sort of that plaza that they have in the middle of the paddock.
Well, there's a lot more crowd on this side of the circuit, whereas the victory lane used to be on the outside by the media center, kind of to the right of the screenshot we're looking at right now. So you'd have a good little gathering, but it didn't enable everyone to get over there.
Yes, absolutely.
So again, another of the improvements and making it more fan-friendly.
And look here, you see the GT4, Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X field getting ready to come out. Final race of the weekend for not of the day, I should say, for them. But let's get down to Ryan, hear from our winners.
Well, I got, once again, the Racer's Edge duo of Shelby Blackstock and Trent Hitman in victory lane overall. And you guys had a little extra competition in the silver class here. You guys, you and Indy were side by side there at the start, Shelby. How important was it to get the jump and take the lead there right at the get-go?
I thought it was very important. It's always really important in any race to really see if you can get in the front and really take command of the race, because then you can kind of gauge your pace from there instead of playing follow the leader. To be honest, I didn't even know he was next to me. All I saw was a big puff of smoke behind me, and I thought he either missed his brake zone or whatever, and then as soon as I looked to my right, he was there. So good, clean racing. We had a good race. Car was really, really good, and this Acura GT3 Evo is awesome.
Definitely. You've been having that on display all season long. We'll have you step to the side and bring Trent in. Trent, another excellent performance. I do want to talk to Shelby. He's got a famous family, Trent. You've got a little bit to live up to there. But for you guys, a little bit of a bounce back on the team side, I have to believe. You had the results because you didn't have the class competition at Sonoma, but there was some unfinished business, was there not?
No, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, there were some items outside of our control that kind of nipped us in the butt at Sonoma. So there was definitely a desire for redemption here at Road America. But as you saw in qualifying, it was a lot tighter than I think ideally we wanted it to be. But at the end of the day, Shelby had one hell of a start there. Really good move on the outside of 3. The Racers Edge Motorsports guys gave us a great NSX GT3 Evo today, as they always do. It was all about execution today, really. Just execution and making effective setup changes. Obviously, yesterday was compromised because of rain. We didn't get a whole lot of testing time. So these boys just keep getting better and better, and we're glad to be along for the ride with them.
Looking forward to seeing what you guys have in store for us tomorrow. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, that is a stout 1-2 punch that those two put together here. And Hitman is just downright special, I think. So that's pretty amazing what they were able to do. And I'll tell you, these guys are still having some fun chatting up about how that race unfolded.
Bit of bench racing goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a look at the beautiful kettle moraine forest from which this track is carved. The early 50s, when they decided you didn't want to be racing on public roads through Elkhart Lake and the surrounding community, a guy named Cliff Tufty just decided, well, let's make a track that, as close to as possible, emulates the road racing that we've been doing, and boy, did they nail it.
I wish F1 had gone to him to design a few of their newer circuits.
It's just true. So very true. All right, our winners in Pro-Am and making a big step in the points are now with Ryan.
That's exactly right, Greg. It might not have been the cleanest race for the Squadra Corsa guys, but Rodrigo, you still get first place points and you build a championship lead a little bit as well. How would you assess today when you think about it in terms of the result that you got and also the points moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. It's good for the points. It's good for the championship, but it wasn't a nice race, you know. The 2 Mercedes crashed on the first turn, and then they touched our car, so our car was a little bit damaged. So it wasn't nice to drive, and we were like alone on the track. So anyway, it's good for the championship.
Definitely so, and a class win as well. You can step aside. We'll bring Martine up. And you were in the car there at that start. That was pretty crazy. What did you see and what did you experience?
Well, I had a good start. I was right behind the Mercedes, the pole position, but I didn't have anywhere to go. I had the wall and right behind the Mercedes. And then I see the other Mercedes next to me. I don't know what happened behind me, but I saw his rear just almost touch my mirror, and I just didn't have anywhere to go. We were so lucky at the first part of the race, so we're happy that we won the race.
Well done. Congratulations on maximum points in class today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, that's important. And you know, when things get a little weird, racing does that on occasion. When rarely goes to plan, to be able to still come through with a win and max out on points, that's how you win championships.
It is, and being smart about it and recognize the position you're in and not making any mistakes. So big day for them as a big swing. And coming in here, I really felt with the testing that the DXDT team had done that could give them the edge, but things didn't go their way with that incident at the start.
And let's get right back down to Ryan with our AM winners.
AM winners and also overall podium once again for this duo. Young Max Root doing a tremendous job in your stint. And you had a little bit of a rabbit to try and chase down on that final lap when we saw the Windward car with some problems. Were you actively trying to get past for second overall?
Definitely, yeah. It was a nice little carrot to chase there, and we had a nice pit stop for that second change and just put our head down, and that was a nice little part. Try to almost get him at the end there.
Another overall podium for you guys. Great job. We'll have you step over and bring Fred on up. And Fred, another overall podium for this tandem. And you look at some of the drivers that Max has to race against in particular on the pro side of things. What does it say about the talent of your co-driver, your ability to put him in position, and then what the team did as well with their execution in the pits.
No, thank you for that. And Max is unbelievable. I think he's obviously, one of the top drivers in the field, and this is the very beginning of his career. So we're going to see great things for years and years to come. So we're all excited about that. I'm very happy with where we finished because we had some problems yesterday with the car, and so we really didn't feel we had the car dialed in. And it was almost like a practice session / race for us to learn something for tomorrow. So we're excited. We battled hard and almost got lucky with the second place there, but we're happy with our finish today.
Thank you, Fred. Big bounce back for the Wright Motorsports guys.
Yeah, clearly. And I'll tell you, for Fred, if Max Root's career goes where everybody seems to think it will, and I would agree that it has a potential for Fred to be able to say a few years down the road, yeah, I won with him at Road America. That's a pretty special thing.
It really is. They're a great driver pairing, feeding off of one another and getting great results right now.
They are, and they get a chance to do it all again tomorrow when it'll be round number 8 of the championship unfolding right here at Road America for GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. For Cal and for Ryan, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you for the Sprint X race for GT4. A glorious afternoon at America's National Park of Speed, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Time for Pirelli GT4 America's Sprint X race action. Second race of the weekend, and it is the 10th round of the championship set to unfold. Cars already out on their formation lap. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish. Ryan Marine with us in the pits, and great to have all of you with us here in our first weekend of racing with spectators back and able to watch a little bit in limited numbers following the protocols, but that is just great energy to be added as well. And tell you what, Cal, they've got one heck of a racetrack they've got to deal with here. Road America is a special place, but as you see, the lights are already out on the Acura NSX safety vehicle. You know, we talk about this is Sprint X racing, which means the drivers race in pairs, but we've seen wins in pairs this year too, haven't we?
Yeah, we really have. And when you look at the championship season, it started off with a pair of wins for the 47 car. Then we saw the Bimmer World entry double up at VIR. Then it's back to the 47 car. Then the Flying Lizard team got a pair of wins. Well, we followed that trend. Billy Orblin and James Walker Jr. won here yesterday. Can they double up here today as well?
We're about to find out. They start from a pretty good spot as they work their way around. As I said, the Acura NSX, the official safety vehicle of SRO Motorsports America. And we are getting ready to go racing here And this grid set by the second driver in the second practice session, because qualifying essentially was rained out. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out here. But I'll tell you what, for that number 82 BMW, that's good news if they want to get that second win.
Yeah, they'll line up on the front row. You can see it there, the bright red and white and blue BMW being headed here by Billy Aublin, sharing the car with James Walker Jr. Green is out. You're allowed to start jump the start here immediately and start to make some passes, not jump the start, but make some moves. Aublin, that BMW's been really impressive with its straightaway speed. He outdrags Andrew Davis down in at the brake zone and sweeps across and takes the lead.
Side by side as Kent Cook working the outside right there of Jan Halen. And they didn't run in yesterday's race, Belluardo and Halen, so they want to make up a little bit of ground and go here.
He's on the attack early, immediately up to the 5th position.
So everybody so far clean and through, and Oberlin into the lead early.
And he got promoted to the front row with a non-starter with the 191 ridden racing Aston Martin, not taking part in the action here today after a big incident yesterday for Jeff Burton. Things settling in. Kenneth Cook up to that 3rd position in the B Sport Racing Aston Martin. They're on a bit of a tear of late. They've had a pair of 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th from their last 4 events, so looking for better here today.
And essentially, with the way this is set now, as it is in the second race of all of the Sprint X category cars, the first starting drivers in the Sprint X ranks, if it's in a Pro-Am combination, it's the pros. So this is all awfully talented drivers here going after it. Look at this. A lot of side-by-side racing, but because of the caliber of driver, everybody clean and working hard. There's Patrick Gallagher, who had one of the drives in the race yesterday.
The Patrick Gallagher with the drive, and great to see the Panos racing team back in action here this weekend. In the middle of that second pack is the number 50 machine with last year's sprint champion Ian James on board, sharing the car with Matt Keegan. Had a good run going yesterday until a bit of a technical issue. See what they can come up with here today.
Here's that group coming in. Look at Michael Cooper looking at a way to get around Ian James.
That's kind of a cut and paste from last year with the 2019 Sprint Championship with Pompelli, James, and Michael Cooper always going at it. But Patrick Gallagher gets a run on Michael Cooper and clears him through the sweep into turn 13. Nice move there by Gallagher again.
Well, we know from what we've seen in other races that the Aston Martin GT4 car is well suited to this track. And Gallagher put in a stunning run when he got in the car yesterday. And look at him, he gets the run here. And that should be coming up. That's Jason Hart, I believe.
Gallagher's on the move.
He is.
Bouncing back from big technical issues at the last event in our championship trail at Sonoma, where they had numerous issues, couldn't really get a good green start. As you see dust flying there on the exit of turn 1. Big move down to the inside. That's Halen trying to make a move on Samantha Tan, I believe.
Yes.
Around the outside goes Chris Wilson aboard the Red and Racing AMG Mercedes.
Side by side with the Panos. He's got Gallagher right on his 6, Wilson does. Look at this scrum, Cal, behind this lead group.
That is a scrap and a half going on for 5th position on back. Up front, Billy Aublin is not driving away from this field. Andrew Davis and company are keeping him honest. If we can survive this little Shabazz will all be amazed that there's not going to be some paint traded up through these next couple of corners.
So many guys through so many corners side by side. And thus far, if there's been a touch, we sure haven't seen it. Boy, the 2 McLarens now duking it out. Cooper right in front of Andretti. Oh, no, that would have been an optimistic move there by Barber. He's trying to get by the crossbow.
Robbie Foley making some big moves from 15th on the grid. Not a great qualifying run for Robbie yesterday, so they were very much in the thick of the championship chase after a pair of wins at Sonoma, but had a technical issue yesterday. They believe they had a piece of debris fly up and basically hit an electrical switch on that car and stranded Michael Diamond at the side of the road right here in the kink yesterday.
Yeah, it was a frustrating run for sure. And was talking with the ST Racing team, Samantha Tan, and Samantha said she recognized that she was being overly cautious going into braking zones yesterday in that race because her reference point was the wet session that she'd been in. And she said, I was really over-slowing going through there, just worried about grip. And she's been fighting hard to try and hold off a very talented group of drivers here. She's lost a couple of spots here.
Yeah, she got kind of out of position there and out of sync, but she's still doing a tremendous job holding in there with a very dynamic bunch of cars there. A lot of experience all the way around her as now Michael Cooper gets a run on the Nola Sport Racing entry down this front straightaway.
And he's got Andretti tucking right in behind him.
It's really tight there, apex to turn 1.
Smart. Staying right with Cooper around the outside. He's still there.
Hart and Travis still have the championship lead. Coming in here. That was aided by the problems with the Flying Lizard duo of Dynan and Foley yesterday.
Leia Foge in the Cameron Racing entry right there, that blue and orange BMW. Went inside, outside, now back inside on the crossbow, just trying to figure out the crossbow can get into these corners so deep. Does he hang on to it? He floats a little wide, and it's Elganian. I don't think he's going to try and fight around the outside, but Foley is.
Foley around the outside, will have the inside line for turn 7, the upcoming corner. Just makes it stick and slides through there. Samantha Tan is doing a tremendous job of hanging on. Cooper goes to the outside, tries to swing around wide, makes it stick. Brilliant move there by Cooper.
It was, and Tan at the last moment recognized that if she continued her track, she might get into that McLaren's corner, and she just breathed it enough to keep it clean, but not enough to let Andretti slide through. That was a nice piece of adjustment driving by Samantha.
She's really feeling the heat and withstanding this pressure remarkably well.
Through the kink.
Foley. Ducking and diving there, looking for a move on Andretti as they head down towards Canada corner.
See if he pulls something off into the braking zone here. He's thinking about it. Oh, and a touch there.
He had to give it up a little bit. There wasn't enough room, and one of the Nola Sport entries nearly gets into him, and then they run a little bit wide through Canada corner.
Those two team cars almost coming together.
Sorello in the mix as well. Had a brilliant run here yesterday. This is intense.
This is awesome. And then Leia Foge right behind Sorello. They come up the hill.
Ready picking up the draft on the BMW. Makes the move to the inside. He'll be late on the brakes, you can guarantee that. Claire Samantha is now, her attention is focused on the rearview mirror, and where is Robbie Foley?
All right. He's running the protective line down into turn 3. See if Foley trying to ramp to the outside. He does.
She's fighting hard, but she's just getting worked over here a little bit with drivers who have a lot more experience than her, but hats off to her. She's not being intimidated. She's given as good as she's getting.
Well, I thought that was quite a statement when she decided, along with the team and John Miller, to run silver and not Pro-Am.
Look at that, she goes back down the outside of Robbie Foley and takes it deep into the brake zone, a little bit sideways coming off. Gonna have to protect up towards turn 6. BMW's got good speed there, just out accelerates the Porsche a little bit.
Kept Jason Hart behind her.
Tight there for Elganian, trying to make a move down at the inside on the entry to turn 7. Tough to make it happen there. This is for battles just inside the top 20, believe it or not. When you're talking about some of these drivers, is Oberlin now stretching the lead, nearly up to 2 seconds here at the front.
And Davis now under full attack from Kenton Cook. Talked to Kenton at the end of the day yesterday after that run he had where he was chasing Bill Oberlin. And he said, well, I'll tell you, he said, you know, our car was great. He said, that BMW is really strong in a straight line. And and then he paused and went, yeah, but Bill's pretty good too. And it was like, yeah, that's a fact. But he said, boy, was it fun to be able to race against Bill and race competitively with him.
The key for Oberlin is he'd love to build that cushion as much as possible. But he's also got to recognize you have to stay with the same set of tires for his teammate here, so he doesn't want to burn them down.
Well, and you think about what his teammate James Walker Jr. did yesterday, starting in 18th after a real unfortunate qualifying run and turning it over to Oberlin inside the top 10, and it marched his way up through their class. I think Bill's got some faith. Walker told me, he said, Bill is the absolute best, he said, and not just because of what he can do behind the race car. He said, from the start of this year to now, he has made me such a better race car driver than I ever even thought I could be.
Yeah.
And he said, that's what's special about this. And Walker showed that in that his stint yesterday.
Yeah, and he's got so much experience to draw on, but he's also a taskmaster as well. He'll be leaning on James and making sure he steps up to the plate when needed to.
One of the things that had James really excited about it was James is a vehicle dynamics engineer by training, and he said one of his favorite parts of racing, he said he loves the driving, but he also loves poring over data. And when he got the opportunity to run with Arberlin, and Bill is one of the most technically savvy racers in the business, he said, a lot of people thought, now, Bill, you're not going to get out of the truck early. And James said, man, I relish that. And he said, they just sit and go over stuff forever. And he loves it. He loves the dynamic between the two of them. And Bill's a fun guy, too.
He is a fun guy, but he loves to win, and he does it a lot, and he demands a lot from the team and everyone around him. So he's a bit of a taskmaster, even though he does it in a really nice way. But he looks for the edge in every single department. He works on it technically. He'll work on pit stops. He'll work on being the fastest driver changer out there. He even worked on his fitness over the offseason, lost about 25 pounds, and he's always been as fit as a fiddle anyway. I don't know how he could possibly lose that much weight, but he looked almost gaunt when he showed up at the beginning of this year, because he said, you know what, that's weight that's not accounted for, and if I'm dragging around 20 pounds over other competitors, I want to get rid of it.
Well, that's part of that commitment, obviously, and I just wanted to note, we saw the 46th NOLA Sport entry in pit lane. That's Russell Walker. And that's a real shame, because as you remember, they finished second right on the tail of their team car, the number 7, in the AM class yesterday, and showed some real speed. And so that's a bit gutting for them, knowing that they had a real opportunity here.
Yeah, that is a shame. We got other entries out there that are doing well. So it's tough sledding here today, though. I mean, you see Jason Hart down in the 12th position overall, 9th in class for our championship leaders right now. Really a testimony to the competitive level here in Sprint X competition.
Yeah, look at this group, this trio. Andretti, Cooper, Foley. These are 3 hard-nosed, incredibly talented drivers.
I spoke to Michael Cooper this morning on the phone and just said, you're running cars, you're winning a lot of races with the Black Dog Speed Job entry, and he said, yeah, we're just still learning our way with the Flying Lizard machine here, and a few technical issues we're trying to get our head around. So he said it will come. I said, are you having to compromise the car in terms of making it comfortable for Aaron to drive? He said, absolutely not. He said, I don't like a free car anyway, in terms of a car that's maybe a little light in the rear and a little bit more speed that way. So he said, what I like, she likes, so that's not the issue. We just got to get our head around this car technically.
He's giving it a good run right now, but as you pointed out, when you see guys of this caliber that far down in their class, let alone in the field, it just speaks to just the quality of these fields and what's unfolding right now. What a great duel this is.
Got 2 Flying Lizard entries right there together, different manufacturer brands represented by that group. Got McLaren going up against the Aston Martin of Robbie Foley there. Both of them try to chase down Jared Andretti.
Well, I think this has got to be in a way, a nice feeling for Cooper and Vogel, because we know how good that Aston Martin is of Foley and Dynan with the way that they've run. And right now, the fact that Cooper is able to stay right in front of that team car here, there would be some level of suggestion that perhaps they're really starting to get a handle on this car. See if Foley does something down to the inside here. He's not close enough.
Yeah, a lot of people out of order really in terms of their potential speed because of that qualifying session getting rained out. Free practice 2 from Thursday afternoon has really set this grid, and probably wasn't on a lot of people's radar in terms of I need to get out there and set a fast lap. As Foley looks to the inside and makes it stick. Michael will give it to him as a teammate, you'd have to think.
That was a really, really nice move, wasn't it?
Well, that's a nice move, and also demonstrates the strength of the Aston Martin as well.
Yes. Well, but Cooper, we know these McLarens are quick in a straight line. Look at this.
Pushing it, not quite.
Quite, but see what happens here. Now he pops to the outside. Foley drifts over to set up for the corner, but that was fun stuff. And, this might now, I think you're going to see teams, you get into a weekend where on one of the days there's potential for rain for one of your qualifying sessions. I think everybody's going to say, well, let's put in one flyer in practice here.
It's important, and the rain was certainly expected, so it was really up to teams to really be thinking ahead and thinking about that possibility.
In practice, you know, you've got so many different agendas that you're working on, and outright speed sometimes isn't the case, but it should be now.
Well, you also got to think about your tire allocation as well, so there's a lot of factors involved there. You don't want to suddenly go out with a fresh set of skins and use them up, and it was wasted because qualifying takes place as normal. So up front, Oberlin, gap now almost 3.5 seconds. And I think Kenton Cook may have a bit more speed available to him, but Andrew Davis doing a great job of hanging on to that second position right now. They had a technical issue yesterday with Jason Bell had a really good run. And then when they did their pit stop, car wouldn't refire, had a fuel pump issue, so that cost them a good chance of a result.
And then right behind that group is Nick Whitmer, who even his teammate, who is a very talented driver, and Harry Gottsacker, has just called Whitmer a monster a few times with some of the runs that he's put in. And this is a shot that I saw just a little bit ago. We were back in the pack and looking at Jason Hart, 12th right now, admittedly. But Zach Anderson hanging right with his pro teammate. That's impressive stuff for Zach. He's really showing people some stuff this year, I think.
Yeah, he really is. And Sean Gibbons and he have got a massive lead in the AM Championship. And looking way down the road, Chris Wilson leads in the AM class right now, 7th overall and leading the AM division. But certainly the Nola Sport team will still think they got a chance of victory here this afternoon. They'll keep digging deep.
Right now.
Oh, problems here. Hood is up.
Hood pops up.
This is massive. This is our championship leader. Nothing he could do but just pull over to the side. Almost needs to be able to hit the brakes if he can get it to slam down. That's what he's trying, but just doesn't have the leverage. Oh, boy.
This is gutting. Watch it right here.
I tell you what, lucky it happened in a straight line. Imagine if that happened going through the kink.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, we have seen some crazy stuff here today, Cal.
Have to wait and see if he can find a safe spot if he's not able to crawl it back to the pit lane as Kenton Cook continues to harry Andrew Davis for that position. And they're just, that B-Sport team are really knocking on the door of their first win this year.
They are.
He and Brian Putt have been tremendous.
Every race we're seeing. I mean, yesterday Brian was really racy in his stint. Opportunistic passes and the like, and then turned it over to Kenton, who absolutely set sail. And you tend to forget with the way we've seen them run here in these last couple of events. This B-Sport team, this is a very small family team that is built from the ground up in the offseason.
Yeah, they've got good technical direction though with Eric Peterson, who I believe is still their engineer. So they've got some good people. I've got a quality group, even though it's a small knit team. That's why they're getting the results. And this Aston Martin in a number of different teams' hands this year has really proven to be quite the weapon. Speaking of which, looks like Foley has gotten around Andretti now and has taken off a little bit.
There he is, then Andretti, Cooper, and behind them that duel, not for the same class, with Hart hanging on in front of his AM teammate Anderson right there, but Anderson that close. And let's check another moment here. And this is the look. This is the moment for Robbie.
Yeah, just deep on the brakes there, and it's not easy to outbrake Jared Andretti, so that just shows the strength of Robbie Foley and that Aston Martin collectively.
Yeah, that was nicely done, and there he is now. That puts him now up into the, with Whitmer's issues, that's going to move him up now into 8th in the overall run, 7th in Pro-Am. And see, he's got, though, about almost 8 seconds, though, now, Cal. He's got to make up if he wants to get to Ian James. And there's Whitmer. He's pulled off. That's a class act. He's gonna, look at that. He's just there, pushed it down.
It's a disaster for these guys.
Unbelievable. There's the ST team. That's John Miller, who'll hop in and
just analyzing the data there. Samantha Tan was doing a tremendous job of just hanging in amongst some pretty rich company there in terms of their speed. And the problem for this is as soon as he gets to any sort of speed, that hood's going to come back up again.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll just take it in down at turn 5. You can drive through there. You lose a lap by doing it, but he's already lost.
I'm surprised he didn't take the extra time to try and see if there was a pin. I'm not sure exactly of the locking mechanism there with the pins and clips on the hood. That's a long 4 miles at that sort of speed.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I think he might just pull off at 5. He's going to probably lose a lap anyway.
The key for them is getting the minimum drive time to get some points here.
Exactly. This is a pretty good scrap here as well. Halen, that's now 4th overall and Pro-Am. Gallagher 5th overall and Pro-Am. And those are teammates, believe it or not, for RS1 Motorsports, one in a Porsche and one in the Aston Martin.
Gallagher's the only other driver other than Bill Aublin, our leader, in the 218 range. He's run a 218.8, Aublin's 218.4, but everyone else are like low 19, so he's certainly got pace there.
Yeah, he's awfully good. Then Chris Wilson right behind him. That's the AM leader. Oh, and look at this again, Cook trying to figure out a way around the outside of Andrew Davis.
Gets a big run here, but just floats out a little bit too wide to probably set up Andrew. Andrew's up to the task there, runs it in the middle of the road and takes it in really late on the brakes. Just gets to apex before Kenton can make a move.
These are great chess matches. Look at how slow Nick has to go. He's so concerned about that hood, rightfully. Davis continues to hang on down into turn 5. Ian James, behind these guys in that battle, is hanging right with that Halen Gallagher-Wilson battle.
That whole group from 2nd all the way back to about 8th has just run really consistent lap times in terms of their best today, all within a 10th or 2 of a second of each other. Settling down here a little bit as Aublin continues to stretch that lead now up over 5 seconds. So that is going to be huge for the Bimwell team to try and execute their pit stop exchange. You would expect with the pit stop window between the 25 and 35 minute mark with the upper graded or the slightly faster drivers potentially starting this race, they'll keep them out there as long as they possibly can.
The pit stop window here is the minimum stop time is 91 seconds, correct?
That's right. Andrew's just not cracking the door, is he?
Not at all. He's not flinching. And you know Kenton is throwing everything at him he can right now. The problem is you know, you might be able to get a little bit more aggressive and do something, but as you said, you've got to have tires on this car because that's something you don't change in that pit stop. Drivers only. That's why I was thinking that Bill, you know, at the start of the race, those first few laps when he didn't draw away from anybody too much, I wonder if he was just doing what he had to, just be able to keep it in the lead, let those tires come in and take it easy.
Yeah, maybe started on slightly lower starting pressure so they gradually build and get more into the sweet spot towards the second half of his run. And then make some adjustments during this pit stop exchange. No tire changes allowed unless it's an emergency situation during the driver changeover. That window will open up in about a minute or so, but I doubt if we'll see any of these leaders hit pit lane immediately. Obviously with the silver combinations, there's a chance that they'll do an early stop and try and do the undercut on some of the other drivers out there.
Well, and I wonder if Samantha Tan might not come in early, put in John Miller, and then you got John Miller up going against some of the AMs in the field, and that always is interesting to watch.
Yeah, interesting strategy how they do that. John's got a lot more experience, a little bit more speed than Samantha at this stage of her career, so elected to start him for race 1.
So So nice to see both, obviously, the Panos team, but Ian James and Matt Keegan back here in this championship.
Yeah, they're good friends, and Ian was kind of managing the Panos operation, taking over from Tom Milner Sr. Just really wanted to get Matt involved, and great to see both he and Preston Calvert wanting to return, coming off an AM championship last year. Wanted to set out the COVID situation, just see how things evolved, and said, okay, time to return. And unfortunately for Preston, he had a bit of a moment here in testing, I think on Wednesday, actually. So they're out of the action. Was going to share that car with young Roman DeAngelis. So hopefully we'll see them back for a couple more races this year.
Preston said that is the plan. He wants to come back. And they asked us to just really put a big shout out to Galaxy Magnesium, which is the sponsorship company that has stepped up to make this program possible. And they said we wouldn't be able to be here running without them. So that is nice to have that company come in. And to do it mid-season in the middle of something that's been unfolding like the pandemic, that's pretty special. To have them say, yeah, let's go do this.
Talk about how competitive this field is. This is last year's champions right there. Steve Cameron Racing, Greg Leofus behind the wheel. He's running 10th in class right now as we see the domino effect with Andretti peeling off early, Alganian. These are the silver-silver combinations, switching it up. And Celia Howard will jump in to the crossbow, and Colin Mullen aboard the Andretti Autosport machine. Just getting back to the fact that Leofus was running in 10th and Jason Hart 9th in class.
I was just going to say, because Hart, they were the ones that looked like they were going to win the championship early and finished a close second, and both of them that far down. That speaks volumes here. So Cole Serralo is in the number 25.
Yeah, he and Tim Barber had a great run here yesterday.
Yeah, they really were strong.
Here you see the unique entrance to this car.
Let's find out how things are going down in pit lane, Ryan.
Jared Andretti climbing out of the Andretti Autosport window world. Check it for Andretti McLaren, and there is some damage on the nose of that machine. I'm not sure if you guys caught that or not, but it is Colin Mullen being installed in that race car now. Remember, the full focus of this Andretti Autosport team right now is on Sprint X. They're not running in Sprint now this weekend and mostly for the rest of the season until we expect the season finale at Indy. Pretty smooth driver change here, as they're just waiting for the right time to release Colin Mullen. We'll see what he can do in his stint.
And out he heads, and yeah, good shot there. The damage at the front of that car got into somebody. All right.
Right on the number.
Wow.
91.004 for the Andretti team. That's awesome.
That's as good as you can get without dipping into Joker territory. 31.9 for the crossbow switch over. 31.5. Or excuse me, 91.5. Serralo and turning it over. That's some great stops. Samantha Tan and Miller, well, they just dipped into the Joker.
Yeah, I don't think they used it yesterday. You're only allowed one per weekend. So they're trying to find everything they can to get back into the big points here.
That's John TC coming out, having taken over from Tom Collingwood.
What a performance by Andrew Davis, keeping someone as competitive as Kenton Cook behind it for this whole stint. There's great discipline in placing that race car. It's not like the car is slow. They led one of the practice sessions here earlier this weekend. But Andrew Davis, nonetheless, keeping a really fast Aston Martin behind him and keeping Bill Aublin in his sights.
Yeah.
Aublin 6.7 seconds to the good right now.
Davis there, it's about as big a margin as he's had over Cook. Car length and a half. That's good stuff. Next, actually, that is Collingwood has taken over from TC, by the way, in the 69 BGB car.
Things settling in. If you got anything left, go for it right now, even though those tires have to survive the rest of this race. So we're right at the halfway point coming up on it. So these guys could probably run another couple of laps safely. 3 would be awfully tight.
Well, and if you're that tight on it and you go for that third lap and there's a caution or you have a little spin or whatever, suddenly you miss that pit window and that's a big penalty.
Yeah, I think two is all you can do.
Bill flashing through. Here's Davis and Cook.
Basically 4 minutes and 40 seconds, so you need 29:40 on the clock when you get to the stripe, really, to even think about doing 2 more laps after this one. It's just going to be way too tight for anyone to try and think about. So I'd expect to see these cars complete this lap plus 1 more. Right at that number, Greg. Looking at the clock there, 2 laps should take you 4 minutes and 40 seconds. So even for the leader Oberlin, that would be way too tight to risk, I think. Should be next lap and in. Last thing you want to do is have a little spin on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Run afoul of that. And again, just to reiterate, that pit stop window, you don't have to have completed the service, but certainly be on pit lane and break the timing line by the time that 25 minutes to go mark comes up.
Side by side there down into the Sargento Bridge. And there's Oberlin coming up. And this is Chandler Hull has taken over for Grahovic, and this is Miller.
Miller's going to be up on the wheel as he always is. Just wrings the car's neck down in the inside. Gives Chandler a little bit of room coming off there. That then cost Miller speed, but he still is able to clear him by the time they get to the apex of 7.
Of course, Chandler ran a little bit earlier today in the touring car race and did a very nice job. Ended up with a strong top 5 finish. Actually, I think he was second, wasn't he?
Yeah, he ended up second. Yeah, made some late moves late in the going there. And Grahovic dropped back a little bit.
Now that was a few hours ago, and lots has unfolded since, but would having that 40 minutes of racing on the track here help him a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. You're going to get into your rhythm a little bit quicker. You'll have a bit more confidence than someone who's been sitting around since yesterday. So, but nonetheless, at this level, when you're talking about guys like John Miller, they're going to be up to the task. 2 or 3 corners and they're back into a groove. Particularly on relatively warm tires, do you know what I mean? The cars just sit idle for about a minute and then off they go again. Great stint by Patrick Gallagher here.
Just superb. Turns it over to his co-driver, who goes, his name's Joe Dalton, but he goes by Matt to honor his grandfather. And after all the issues they dealt with in Sonoma, to have that run yesterday, I was talking with Matt, and he said, we are so pumped. He said, you know, we knew that this team in that car was capable of it. There's Oberlin coming in.
Yeah, you can see the time there. So for Oberlin, he could have maybe squeaked it, but that would have been within a second or so. Everyone else has to hit pit lane. It's all about execution. We've seen some really good pit stop times here today, right around that 91-second minimum. So see what the leaders can come up with as James Walker Jr. heads out and takes over from Billy.
What's important to remember is this team yesterday used their joker. So they can't be short.
And we talk about the pairs of wins this year, so let's see if that pattern continues. 4 times the winner have followed up with the next race win.
Andrew out, Jason Bell climbing on board.
About his 18th race today, I think.
It's just maybe 18th session. Yeah, he's
amazing.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier, that we were talking about his 8 races, but that means 8 qualies, 8 practices. It's a lot of seat time. All right, James Walker Jr. heading out. See just what they did. This one's got to be over 91 seconds. Oh, he's awfully close. Yeah, 92.
That's okay.
That's all right, absolutely.
I mean, you've got to adjust, I feel. If you've got a nice lead, then don't cut it so close. I mean, if you're trying to grab track position and leapfrog someone, then you take a bit more risk. There you see.
Oh. Real quick, we're going to get down to Ryan, but first, just a note, Halen and Belluardo, that changeover way short. So that's going to be a problem for them. Ryan, what are you hearing?
Problems for the GMG.
Unique little car, no rear wing on the newest design, as you can see.
Yeah, it makes its downforce a little bit differently, but not a lot of drag, is there?
No. As he gets to sector 3, which starts just after the kink, he's going to lose out a little bit to the McLaren down on the run to Canada corner. Has to be a fun car to drive.
I would think. Just you look at braking markers and laugh. Go by him.
I know. Jason Bill's hanging on to Matt Keegan, so Keegan got by him, but it's like Jason is now had a nice little rhythm. Celia Howe goes right there, looking to the inside on Colin Mullen on the entry to turn 14.
Able to get it done, and here's where he's going to drop off just a little bit. This is Dynan trying to go by Belluardo, and you hope that the crew is informing him that don't push it too hard. This guy, it's
dangerous right there.
Yeah.
Belluardo was pretty feisty, just like his teammate. Doesn't give it up easy, so hats off to him. But you got to feel that he must have got the message by now. So,
and you're allowed what, 2 passes. Once you get word, you can go by start finish twice, and then you better stop or they just stop scoring you.
Yeah, and that's all part of the strategy. If you've got relatively clean air, you want to keep him out there and not pit early and maybe buried more in the pack. So he's got good pace. So the big question is now, what can Dynan do in comparison to Brian Putt? So he's only about 5 seconds behind Brian Putt, run on lap times consistently a couple of seconds quicker. So Brian Putt's got to get his head down and react to this challenge that's coming up behind him.
As Colin Mullen has gone around Jason Bell. So he's going to go back up there. Now, here comes Celia Howe, going to try and outbrake Jason down into 8. The thing with that, on that crossbow, if you're up alongside the car in front of you, when that car gets to its braking zone, you're going to make that pass.
Yeah, you're still shifting up. Tongue in cheek, of course,
yeah,
but it is a little flying machine.
It really is.
This is going to be a little tougher for Colin Mullen. I mean, Matt Keegan's got good pace here, but he can't afford to hang around too long because Mads is going to be. That's really tough that you're on the dirty part of the racetrack, really deep on the brakes. He realized the pressure was on to try and make that move and took a bit of a risk there, but made it stick.
He did.
Kudos to Colin Mullen there in terms of recognizing the dynamic of the situation and had to make a move. This is exactly what Jared Andretti wanted in his teammate. Someone who's up on the wheel but doesn't make mistakes.
You can see that McLaren was dancing on those brakes, but he had it under control.
They cross the stripe, Dynan to Putt. The gap is just over 2 seconds, so it's getting awfully close. That second position overall and in Pro-Am.
Look at that. Celia Howe not only able to stay with the Panos, but getting a little bit of a toe and pops out fairly early.
Well, coming into this weekend, Ian James said, listen, we're running on a relatively small restrictor. He said the car was really good over the season, but this was one racetrack that we struggled at a little bit.
Yep.
So they wanted to come back here at Road America, but recognized it probably wasn't the strongest circuit for them on their return.
Boy, look at how quickly Dynan is closing on Putt here. Yeah. You talked about the speeds Dynan was running, but this is still pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and a lot of time left on the clock, so both of them run a little bit wide there through turn 5, so I'm not sure if Michael got target fixation there a little bit and watching Brian miss his braking point a little bit and went with him.
Just
big exit speed there. May make a move here. Probably needs to be. He recognized I've caught this man really quickly. I should be able to pass him. So no real urgency with 12 minutes left on the board. But you never know what can happen. If you get a big yellow, you'll be kicking yourself afterwards if you wait too long.
This is always spooky stuff. But Putt
spooky
gave him enough
for
room.
Putt.
Yeah, exactly. And Putt understood the dynamic there.
about where Travis is. So we talked about yesterday how tight the championship was getting between the 47 car and this machine, the 21. So now you got Dynan up in second, and Travis now running in the 9th position in Pro-Am, so it's going to be a big point swing back the other way again.
You know, Dynan right now is easily the fastest car in the track. I mean, he just ran a lap that was 2 seconds, 3 seconds quicker than Walker and Putt.
I guess the question we need to be thinking about now with this much time on the board, can he catch James Walker Jr.?
Yeah, that is a lap that Dynan's putting in here. I mean, Mullen turns a 2:22.6.
Yeah, Walker's got to respond here.
Yeah.
He's got to get up on the wheel a little bit. And that last lap was a 2:23.7. Aublin's fastest lap earlier on fresher tires was a 2:18.4. So I'm not sure if that was traffic affected by James in terms of that lap time.
Looking at this battle here, that's Aaron Vogel right there. I think yep, Miller has just gone by. That's John Miller. And he is 3rd in the silver category right now. So yeah, he's 15 seconds adrift with that Mullen-Silliahug battle. So it's going to be pretty difficult for a driver of Mr. Excitement's talent to get to the front.
Yes. But I really think that Michael Dynan has a shot at this. I mean, James Walker Jr. has got to respond. He's got to dig deep here and find some lap time here. Otherwise, Dynan has enough time left on the board. Probably 4 laps, maybe 5 to catch him. The gap was 9.1 seconds last time across the stripe. So if he can pull him by about 1.6, 1.7 a lap, that's going to be enough to get there.
Now, Ryan, are the Flying Lizard pits getting a little excited about a potential overall?
Yeah, I'd say they are. I had a moment to chat with Darren Law a second ago, and he said, look, we know it's going to be close. We also know it's been a good points day already, so priority is get the car to the finish. But he finished by saying, look, if Michael catches Brian, we're going to tell him to go, and we want that overall win if we can get it.
Well, they need it, too, after what happened yesterday. They, as much points as they can get, they need to go after it here. And watching this battle for the silver win between Colin Mullen and Matt Silliahug, you know that if he gets through, Silliahug will probably.
Oh, he's looking at the inside. He can put that car wherever he wants it to go, and Colin Mullen recognizes that. He's got to make that McLaren really wide there into these brake zones. Pull him a little bit up the hill, but not as dramatic as we saw last year with the older configuration crossbow. They've certainly made this car a lot more raceable with the changes to the new spec car.
Another penalty coming up. Keegan in the number 50. Don't know who had it, but a pit speed violation. So too quick. I suppose, you know, your first weekend back racing in a number of months. These are the little things that are going to trigger you here. But the interesting thing to me is that Belluardo has not made his stop. And he's done a lot more than 2 laps past that start-finish line.
Yeah, well, they'll stop scoring him if he's outside of that range that they allow you to have. And looking at the gap up front, 6.7 seconds, Walker Jr. to Dynan, so 2.4 seconds I think he took out on that last lap. That's massive.
Yeah. Well, this is going to help Mullen as he gets through on Belluardo, and Silliahug couldn't. See if Silliahug is able to just slice by and under braking down into 8, and that's his plan.
Did a lot of testing with that crossbow since the turbo issues that they had at the last rounds at Sonoma, running in I think it was 106 degrees heat. In California, it's been just unbelievably hot, and thoughts to everyone who's been struggling with the wildfires out there once again. Just dramatic conditions that the California community is dealing with. Look at the run that Silliahug had through the carousel. Like the car's in a different league through there.
He tends to diamond that a little bit. He has a lot wider arc at the entry of that corner, and then is able to just roll throttle to that apex. It drops off a little bit, doesn't it? As you come out of the Okay. Ooh, big twitch there by Mullen.
He's trying to break in the middle of the road, which is not where there's a ton of grip in dry conditions. It's more the wet braking line. Just trying to defend. He's got a lot of work with over 6 minutes to go to hang on to this win here today. The World team have done a brilliant job. They've been struggling in general with Jared Andretti's sprint car machine, but certainly in sprint competition, they always seem to be a factor.
Yep, and Silja is, he had a great run. It was tucked in, but there you see just the legs. Boy, and they are coming and closing on Putt. Huge head of steam. This could affect Mullen and give Silja a real opportunity. Putt runs way wide.
Was that him laying down the rubber there?
Yeah.
He made that move and cut to the inside. Thought I saw the black mark suddenly appear underneath his car.
I did too.
It's wild.
So they're both through on Putt. Oh, we're getting word here that the 37 at Belluardo, the radio has failed in the car. So they can't contact, it is, isn't it? They can't contact him. I'm pretty sure there's a black flag at the start stand, but you know, it's tough with this, and I'm being serious here, the sun visors that run across the windshields and everything. Sometimes it's, you just don't catch that when you're just focused here.
Belluardo suddenly slowing down dramatically there. He had a bit of a moment in turn 5, so I'm not sure if he's just recovering from that. There he goes.
I think so. All right, this is close.
Oh, this is going to be tough.
And Mullen knows it. Stays way, way over.
Yeah, Silja might try and run the outside here. Colin's done a really nice job positioning that car, but this is where that crossbow is really quick.
Yep, and this is the line Silja runs anyway. Way out wide, he's done this.
Wow.
Look at this.
He's in the marbles out there. That is ridiculous. That is just ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. Now it's a drag race up to the kink. Mullen turns in shallow. Can Silja come up underneath? He's there.
But Mullen's still got his nose ahead. He'll have a bit more horsepower.
Yeah. But this is as close as he's been, whichever way Mullen goes. Silja, there he goes, going to go to the outside.
He is working him over big time.
He
can put that crossbow wherever he wants on the racetrack, and it's still developing grip. Just remarkable. Out in the marbles around the outside of the carousel. And this, the boy doesn't know any better.
Well, that's it. That's it. And this is a huge testament to Colin Mullen's ability, too, isn't it? Because he hasn't cracked.
This is Michael Cooper-esque. We saw him run a performance like this morning, trying to defend from Spencer Pumpelly, who did eventually get by, so maybe that's a...
Spoiler alert. You're supposed to say that before you give the info.
And here we go for the lead.
Oh, boy. Wow. That was a huge lap by Dynan. He turned to 220.8, Walker at 224.1. And under 4 minutes to go.
Well, let's see how defensive James gets here. He can certainly see that Aston Martin looming ever larger in his rearview mirror here. He's still got to focus on hitting his marks, but then on the key areas, just placing that race car. Doesn't come off turn 5 with a ton of acceleration there, so just maybe overslowing it a little bit on the entry. Side by side, Silja to the inside. Mullen defends. He's got a bit more acceleration and squirt up the hill. Big battles here for both classes.
Silja gonna try the outside here. Mullen, being gentlemanly, gives it to him. This might be it, Cal.
Yeah, he's going to clear him here. He's going to be deep on the brakes, nothing that Colin can do. And if he gets to the carousel, he's probably going to gap him by a car length or two easily with the speed that we've seen on previous laps. So that's the battle for the silver class win. Here's the battle overall and for Pro-Am, and also the battle for the Am lead is getting tighter. Sean Gibbons is now only 8 seconds behind John Allen.
Boy, this is just intense stuff. Look at the exit speed that Dynan has.
Walker's placing the car in the right spot down into the brake zones, but he's not rolling through the apex with enough momentum. He's kind of probably a bit off the cam in terms of the sweet spot, the torque of the motor. But exit there. Good job there. BMW does seem to have pretty equal speed, at least, to the Aston Martin there, even though Michael's got a bit of a roll going. Team looking on, waiting to see. Does Michael pop to the inside? How much patience does he have here? 1 lap to go, I believe. Should have seen the white flag
here. Ooh, and he's way wide. But boy, carries a ton of speed in doing it.
Clears him. Nice job there by Michael Dinan.
That was a charge.
Just had enough time.
Yep.
Wasn't really focused on it then. Suddenly when he was up to second, it was like, hang on. Lap times he was cutting compared to Walker made it feasible, and he had just enough time on the board.
Now for Oberlin and Walker, I mean, second in class, will be helpful in the points.
And it's going to break that sequence of the wins coming in pairs.
Yeah, it's a good.
Exactly. Pairs of wins so far. This was going to be 5 if the 82 could have hung on, but it's also going to make the 3rd win out of 4 in Sprint X competition for the Dinan-Foley combination. Really tighten things up in the championship. Yes. Looking at the run here. Well, Travis is now up into 5th, so he's been making some moves. That's going to help things a little bit for the Nola Sport team.
And Siljehaug on that last lap turned to 2:21.5. And is easing away from Mullen here. There is Michael Dinan.
Just a superb performance.
Absolutely.
Just from deep in the pack. I mean, they qualified way down the order as the grid was set from practice times here on Thursday. 15th position they started. Foley did a great job cutting his way through the field. Great pit stop, of course, as you would expect from the Fly and Lizard Motorsport team. And then Michael Dinan on the charge here, grabbing another victory.
Wow, the remarkable season of Michael Dinan in the Flying Lizard Motorsports Aston Martins continues here. The great opening drive by Robbie Foley. Dinan late in the race, taking the position, winning overall, winning in Pro-Am at Road America. That is pretty mega.
I got a feeling that's his 10th win on the year.
Yeah, and then here comes Siljehaug. And for the Crossbow team, there's Nikolai Elganian up on the wall, winning in the silver category. What a run, and what a battle between Mullen and Siljehaug.
That was awesome. Great job by both of them.
And let's see what's going to unfold in the, look at this. It's John Allen. Now that is one of the Pro-Am cars. That's Chandler Hull.
Position, but Sean Gibbons is right there. That is for the AM win. Right there, you're looking at it. The white Mercedes going up against the bright yellow Nola Sport Porsche. Does Gibbons have enough time? Can Allen hang on, not make a mistake through this crucial final corner?
This is going to be massive. Allen in the Reardon Racing Mercedes, flying the University of Alabama colors. And Gibbons right behind him in the Nola Sport Trattori Farms entry, and Allen is just going to have enough to bring the win home in AM for Mercedes and Reardon. Roll Tide, got to say it. But what another great drive by Sean Gibbons and Zach Anderson. We talked about earlier about Zach hanging on to Jason Hart for a lot of that race, and that's good stuff. And then a heck of a run by Tom Collingwood to stay pretty close and bring it home 3rd in the AM category for BGB.
Well, 3 different classes in this race, and every one of them went right down to the final lap in terms of determining the winner. Really cool stuff.
And the CrowdStrike fastest lap, that 2:18.460 goes to Bill Oberlin. It's a nice run, and I'm sure Walker is the 2nd overall, 2nd in class, and I'm sure he'll be a little frustrated.
Well, we talk about the fine margins. Remember, on that pit stop exchange, it was a good, tidy pit stop. They left just over a second on the board. I'm not sure that would have been enough for Walker to hang on to, but would have made it a little bit later in that final lap before he got caught.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a look at the original results. You can see top 2 overall, also Pro-Am, Foley Dinan, Walker Oberlin, then Mad Siljehaug and Nikolai Elganian in the Crossbow winning in the Silver category, 3rd overall, Mullen Andretti, 4th overall, 2nd in silver. Then Kenton Cook, Brian Putt. Again, Pro-Am, Jason Bell and Andrew Davis. And John Miller, he had a nice charge through the pack, didn't he? And up into 3rd in silver and 7th overall. Then Travis Hart, Vogel Cooper, Dalton Gallagher. Next up, then 4th in the silver category is Barber and Serralo. Then Leofoge and Quinlan. And then Grahovic and Hull. And then that battle in Am that was so close at the end. Allen over Gibbons. And then Collingwood. And the Belluard O'Halon. And I wonder if they've just assessed that penalty as a time penalty and moved him back. We'll have to follow up on that. And then Rappaport and Derek DeBoer. We didn't see a lot of the Rappaport DeBoer Racers Group entry, but did want to just make a comment about that. That's the Silver State Medical Consultants and Fast Life TV entry. And Fast Life TV with Derek and his wife Brooke, they've got a new mission and partnership. They're working to raise awareness and money to help stop human trafficking. So it's a great program that they've put together as well. Let's take a look at some highlights here for this 10th round of the championship. And from the pole, Oberlin up front, gets around Andrew Davis, slots into the lead. These opening few laps, Cal, were just insane. The cars running in this massive pack.
It was unbelievable. A lot of drivers out of position with the grid being set by free practice times here on Thursday, where people really weren't focused on laying down a fast lap. Robbie Foley was on a mission early, finally gets down to the inside on Jared Andretti into Canada corner as Michael Cooper tries to follow through as well.
In this big moment here, piece of debris, and what happened? What let loose? Well, what it was the hood on the number 28 machine. Something popped, and Nick Whitmer had to take it off track, push the hood down, and then limp around. And then this great battle here. These guys were really putting on a show.
Dining on putt, and then finally on the last lap through turn 1. It was the long way around. Big radius, big speed, and slices it to the front.
And that just marked a remarkable charge through the pack. Dinan and Foley and Flying Lizard winning in the Aston Martin here at Road America with Walker and Oberlin second. And right behind, there was the crossbow. Sylvia Haugen-Elganian winning in the silver category. And there is James Walker Jr. out of the car. And he has a look on his face of, I had this one.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed.
Sure.
He was trying to hang on there, but
he's a competitor.
He really is.
So
just looking
behind him there's Colin Mullen, who he didn't hang on over that crossbow, but man, I'll tell you, that was an absolutely brilliant defense for laps that he put on.
Just getting back to the Michael Dinan situation,
yes.
I think that is his 10th win, 7 in sprint now and 3 in sprint X. That is quite the season he's putting together.
Just raw speed. I mean, he's always had that potential, but the speed we're seeing this year, and then you combine it with some quickly evolving racecraft. There's Walker having a quick chat with him.
He was doing everything he could to hang on. There's Jack Baldwin, series class manager. He'll be excited by the races he's seen today. The finish on the sprint race earlier today was sensational, and that was a great battle in all 3 classes. GT4 cars are just wonderful cars. There's just a wonderful dynamic to it. There's a real mixture of different manufacturers and horses for courses. Looks like the Porsches are struggling here a little bit this weekend when you look at the results for Travis and Hart, for example, down in 5th position within their class, but nonetheless, they've had strong days this year.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I love about the GT4 category of car is it's got good horsepower, they're fast, they've got downforce, but it's not so sensitive that you get up behind somebody and you lose all the air in the nose. You can actually stay close through fast corners, and that just makes for some absolutely exceptional racing.
Something to be learned from that.
Yes, I agree completely.
Above my pay grade, but.
But yeah, these races have just been unbelievable. And they fly by. I mean, that's kind of the the thing. You look up at the clock, and you go, "No way, it can't be this far into the race already." It's just because it's just start to finish. It's great stuff. And speaking of great stuff, yeah, 10 wins for Dinan. Foley.
I think he knows his way.
Yeah, He's still working a little gingerly on that leg, isn't he? But
Foley?
it doesn't affect him in the car, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had an incident in a different championship right here at Road America down in Turn 5 and took quite the knock, but he's dug deep. And
Boy,
when you're on a roll like he is in multiple championships, it's a sweet spot for his career. You never know if you're always going to be in the same situation.
Making their way over to the victory circle area here in the plaza, as they call it here at Road America and America's National Park of Speed. I suppose if you're in National Park, you should have a plaza, and they do. And there waiting for him is our Ryan Marine, so we'll be throwing it down to him in just a moment. And as a matter of fact, we'll do it right now. Ryan?
Thanks, Greg. Here with the hero of the hour, Michael Dinan. What an amazing final run for you to the checkered flag and ultimately the race win. You had a good points day going no matter what. How much incentive, though, was there to make that pass and take the win?
Yeah, so obviously you always want to get the win. Robbie and I got our first overall win at Sonoma and definitely would not turn down the opportunity to get another one. So I was right there. I'd been catching him at a pretty good pace. So had the opportunity to go around the outside of turn 1. Definitely not a normal place to make the pass here, but I stuck with it and was able to cover him off into 2. And yeah, from there it was over. Luckily, Robbie did an amazing job in his stint. He really took care of the tires, so car felt great the whole way through.
Congratulations on what we believe is win number 10 for you this season between both Sprint and Sprint X. Really well done for you today. We'll have you step to the side. We can bring Robbie on up. Robbie, not to downplay your stint because you certainly put Michael in position, but as we've talked about throughout the year, you've been coaching Michael for some time. Is that the best performance we've seen out of him to date?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. He's had great performances all year. Yeah, he did all the work, really. I just tried to get through the field as cleanly as possible. I passed a lot of cars, but I wanted to take care of the car for him at the end of the race. There were some sketchy moments that I just tried to avoid, and yeah, I knew about his pace at the end, and he closed out a great race, and yeah, this win's all him. So hopefully we're in a better starting position tomorrow. I think we started 14th, 15th today, but we start second tomorrow. So hopefully maybe it's a bit easier, and yeah, we'll have a great race tomorrow.
It's a dangerous proposition for the rest of the field, given your pace. Congratulations,
Thanks.
guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's that's a true statement by Ryan. Just the speed that these guys have here. You take a look. This is the Pro-Am category provisional results, and that's the battle here. Foley Dinan over Walker Arvelin and Kenton Cook and Brian Butt. Another podium for them. We got so caught up in the battle for that top spot here, but they're just stringing together podiums.
Yeah, really consistent, building big points every single week, so they're going to be a factor in this championship by the time we get to the end of the season. And Oberlin just came up a little bit shy. It's been a massive week for Bill Oberlin on many fronts, but
yes.
Good stint there at the beginning, and we'll see what they can come up with tomorrow.
And a good top 6 finish in class for Cooper and Aaron Vogel as they get their heads around the McLaren. The Flying Lizard team does, and Vogel just continues to impress as well. Let's get back down to Ryan.
What a finish it was in the silver class. Coming out on top, Marco Polo Motorsports. Mads Siljehaug was able to bring it home in that final stint. Take us through the duel you had with Colin Mullen and how ultimately you pulled off the pass that netted you the win.
No, there was more to take advantage where he was weaker and then find a gap in the end when he had more wear and tires. And that was my game the whole way, actually. So very happy with the performance of the car and the team, which made it possible.
Congratulations on a great performance from you. You could step to the side. Nikolai will bring you up. Nikolai, if I'm not mistaken, you called yesterday's race the most frustrating in your career. I saw you post-race come sprinting down the pit lane to give your co-driver a hug there. Was that a bit of redemption for you?
No, that was really great. For a track like this to get for P3 or P1 in class was amazing, especially starting from P12. So it was a really exciting race for us.
I'd say so. It was exciting for us as well. Thanks for putting on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they did that, and that's a good point that he brings up here. This was a track where this car doesn't have top end speed, and the only way they get to that position is they got to make passes in traffic here, and somehow they managed to do it.
They did. The car was really quick on the overall lap, and that dynamic, that concertina effect that we saw much bigger last year has really been narrowed. So the series have done a really nice job with the technical regulations to bring that car closer.
Yeah, how about that for a margin of finish? 0.6 of a second. And then John Miller coming back up with Samantha Tan to claim third in the final spot on the podium. And speaking of the podium, one more time to Ryan.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Thrilling finish in the M class as well today. John Allen ultimately held on, but your rearview mirror must have been filling up there on the run to the checkered.
I was holding on for dear life, man. It was something else. My tires were going away, getting a little understeer, and it wasn't my best drive, but I managed to hold on. I got to say, man, Chris Wilson did an amazing job, was running blistering lap times right up front, pointing into the spear. We had a great pit stop. I want to give a shout out to Eric Madsen, our kart chief, who's at home, COVID quarantine, and Brandon, our fill-in car chief, for stepping up. Our engineer, Grant, the whole team, the whole Reardon team did a great job. The car was amazing, and that was a lot of fun today. But I was filling, that mirror was full. It was full.
It was.
It was, yeah.
It was a lot of fun watching it to the end there. Well done to you, John.
Thank you.
We'll bring Chris up. Those final moments, I'm sure you were watching that gap on the timing and scoring, and as the cars came by, what was it like watching your car from the sidelines, just hoping it would hold on?
I had to go run and sit in the porta-john. I couldn't take it. No, John did a great job holding him off. I mean, we were trying not to tell him what the gap was, just so that way he could stay focused forward. But, you know, there at the end, we're like, you got to hold him off. Do whatever you can. Hold him off. And he did. So, yeah, it was a great stint that John had. And second what John said about Reardon and all the guys, Brandon, our new crew chief for the weekend, filling in for Eric. Grant, of course, doing a great job. Laura and Vesco always running the team the way it needs to be run. It was a great win. We needed it.
Mission accomplished today. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
And if you look at that car, you see the University of Alabama all over the car. And, of course, Alan is a graduate and a very active alumnus of the College of Engineering there. And they have a number of interns from the College of Engineering that are part of that team as well, working internships. That's pretty impressive stuff. You take a look at the results. Again, half a second, the margin of victory. That's close stuff. So what a great day of racing here in Pirelli GT4 America Sprint X competition has come to a close. We get to do it all again tomorrow, and the weather is supposed to be just as beautiful, so don't miss it.